Chapter 104, Chapter 99, Quileute Tribe joins DMC. Need for an headquarters. Even though Jojo has been caught off guard by the sudden kiss, feeling déjà vu soon snapped him out of his little thought, and he started to respond eagerly. Both of their hands were searching each other's body greedily. After kissing for a few minutes, both of them broke the kiss, and Jojo took a deep breath. Bite. Ah! Not waiting for Jojo to catch his breath, with a horny look, Alice bit Jojo's neck and proceeded to give small kisses, moving down and tearing his t-shirt apart. Tear. When Alice threw Jojo's t-shirt to the ground, Jojo, not wanting to lose, proceeded to undress her by tearing it apart. Jojo, do you know how many years I have waited for this day? Do I look beautiful? With a hazy look in her eyes, Alice stopped for a second and looked into Jojo's eyes, asking the question. Even though she was considered one of the top beauties along with her sisters, she sometimes heard a few girls mention she was a weirdo, which she overheard due to her super hearing. Alice always wanted to have normal friends, but her circumstances were not right to achieve it. She needed to maintain minimal contact with normal humans to avoid exposing their identity. It might force them to relocate to another place or silence the witness to keep their identity hidden. Flashback. While her brother and sister were finding their bond, even though she was happy for them, she felt lonely looking at the love and bonding between them. Only she, Rosalie, and Edward were left in their family for a long time until Jojo and Bella arrived in Forks. Even though both sisters bonded with the same man, at first, both felt a little unhappy, but over time, they started to accept it. When they found out Jojo, their mate, had two more bonds and there was a potential for it to increase, Rosalie cursed Jojo for a full 2 weeks. Before Jojo arrived, Alice could see him through her gift, but for Rosalie, it was torture to the point she once tried to leave for New York to find him. But they were lucky that Jojo visited Forks, not delaying longer to arrive. This calmed them down. Yesterday, both decided they would make a move on Jojo instead of waiting for him to make it. They had a bet using the game console they borrowed from Emmett to decide who would get the chance to make the first move. Rosalie won it and made her move yesterday, and tonight it was Alice's turn. Flashback ends. Looking at Alice, whose eyes were hazy with lust and a little insecurity visible on her face. You are my cute pixie, the most beautiful pixie I know in this world. Without breaking eye contact, Jojo flipped Alice beneath him and took the initiative to kiss her. He had already guessed that there must be some kind of agreement between them, seeing the pattern of how both Rosalie and Alice were sneaking into his room at midnight. The battle between them continued until morning, when Jojo, who had reached his limit, fell into a deep slumber after climaxing several times with Alice. Days started to pass, and just 3 days before the official opening of the Creative Child Production House, the Quileute Tribe visited him when he returned from school. The current Quileute Tribe leader, Sam Muley, along with the elders, including Jacob's father, Billy Black, came to him to express their intention to join the DMC. _______. Sure, may I ask why you want to join the DMC all of a sudden? Jojo, a bit shocked by their interest, wanted to know the reason behind their decision. Well, you saved teenage girls from our tribe from being sacrificed by an evil witch cult. We are indebted to you, and due to your arrival, the friction between us and the Cullen family has diminished greatly. Sam Muley nodded his head and explained. Yet, Sam and I have always worried about the conflicts that may arise with the Cullens. Billy nodded his head with a sigh and a helpless smile. The younger generation of the Quileute tribe was so hot-blooded and held deep hatred for the Cullens. They had never seen one of the younger generation have a non-hostile conversation with them. So, when I met with Carlisle yesterday, he told me about the supernatural cases you and the DMC have solved, and when he mentioned your encounter with a demon and the cemetery that gives life to the dead, I was fascinated. With a smile, Sam described how he came to hear about their adventures solving supernatural cases. When Sam returned to the Quileute tribe, he summoned an urgent meeting and discussed an idea that popped into his mind. The elders approved, and now they were here to discuss it with him. Well, I have no problem with you joining, but you need to understand that there's no discrimination allowed in the DMC, whoever they are, and everyone must follow the rules strictly if they don't want to lose their life to silly things like touching cursed objects. With a nod, Jojo turned to Sam, Billy, and the elders and warned them. For further details, you can speak with my assistant, Jenny. After giving clear instructions and warnings to the Quileute tribe, Jojo introduced Jenny to them. After a brief conversation with Jenny, Sam and the elders left Jojo's house. When Jenny saw Jojo emerging from his room, she approached him. Jojo, the Quileute tribe is joining DMC. We need a headquarters for DMC and a clear tier system so many can take on supernatural cases without your involvement, like the one the Cullens and I completed without your help. With a serious look, Jenny informed Jojo about the pressing matter. Now that the DMC's membership had increased significantly, they needed a headquarters to properly coordinate every member. After a serious conversation, Jojo went to the Cullens' house to meet Carlisle and asked if he knew of a suitable place to establish a DMC base that would serve as the main headquarters for all future DMC activities. You have a production house opening soon, right? After a few minutes of thought, Carlisle asked, and Jojo nodded, informing him that the Quileute tribe had officially joined DMC. Edward was the first to disapprove, muttering that it would endanger them. Everyone rolled their eyes, paying him little attention. How about constructing an underground base beneath your production house first? If numbers increase, we could expand the base accordingly. With a nod of understanding, Carlisle suggested building an underground base beneath the production house. Sigh. Dear, but most DMC members are in Forks. So it might be more suitable to create one here. With a sigh, Esm pointed out a key point Carlisle had missed. Why overthink it? Let's build it in the deep forest. If you want it hidden from normal people, build an underground base there. Emmett, lying on Edith's lap while playing a game, raised his hand and shared his thoughts. After some discussion, Jojo concluded they would build the headquarters in the deeper part of Forks Forest. Emmett took on the job of designing and building a secret base, with others helping him. Asterisk. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review and Power Stone. Chapter 105, Chapter 100, Time Skip. Wednesday Adams. After chatting with Cullens about where to construct a headquarters for DMC and handing over the job of constructing a headquarters inside the deep forest of Forks, Jojo returns to his house. When Jess and Edith, who were preparing to go for shopping, invited them, Alice and Rosalie stayed back. So Jojo returned home alone after pouring a glass of water for himself. Jenny, where is Inadu? Sitting on the couch watching Jenny, who was handling the paperwork regarding the upcoming release of Home Alone this Christmas, Jojo asked. He hadn't seen her since yesterday, so he inquired about her. When he had stayed in New Orleans, except at night, Inadu would follow him wherever he went. Oh, she is in an open cave inside the forest, 1 or 2 kilometers from our house. She said she would be doing the ritual for recovering her body there. Hearing Jojo's questions about Inadu's whereabouts, Jenny nodded her head and informed him. Sigh. I should visit her. With a defeated sigh, Jojo remembered that he had asked her to do the ritual here in Forks. After some thought, Jojo stood from the couch and was about to go and visit the open cave to oversee the ritual and help Inadu if any help was needed. Did we receive any supernatural case? Halting his steps at the door, Jojo turned and looked at Jenny and asked curiously. Yeah, there were 10, but it all comes under level 1 and level 2. So I assigned it to the Quileute tribe, who arrived in the morning. They seemed to be in high spirits to prove themselves. Nodding her head, Jenny turned the screen to face Jojo, who could see the members who took that 10 mission. Sarah, keep track of them, ask every few hours, except for night, for updates regarding the situation of the case progress, and remind them if they feel any problem or if the difficulty level increases to immediately contact us. And also ask them not to touch any cursed object directly. Looking at the members who took those cases, Jacob and other young members of the Quileute tribe, Jojo thought for a moment and ordered Sarah to keep track of them. They had just joined this morning and have now already taken 10 cases. These cases were not as serious. Out of the 5 cases, 5 were of suspected supernatural activities in their houses. After tracking these people's social accounts and other details, phone calls, and their recent internet searches, Sarah found they were genuine regarding their recent activities. In the remaining 5 supernatural cases, 3 were suspected werewolves, and 2 were about cursed objects. After checking these details, Jojo went to his Harley-Davidson, which was covered by a blue cover. It arrived from New Orleans this afternoon. Poof! Taking off the cover, Jojo sat on it, put the key in the keyhole, and turned it on to start it. Creak vroom. Vroom vroom. After revving the engine for a few seconds with a few accelerations, Jojo started driving it. Open cave. After moving deep into the forest for a few minutes, Jojo noticed the open cave Jenny had mentioned. Stopping at the entrance of the cave, Jojo dismounted the motorbike and was about to move inside to see Anadu. Jojo, you are here. Before Jojo could enter the cave, Anadu, in her spirit form, appeared before him excitedly. Yet, I came to see if everything is all right, and help you if you need my help. Walking close to Anadu, who was excited that Jojo had come to see her, Jojo explained his reason for visiting. Sigh. It will take 2 years, to fully restore my body. With a defeated sigh, Anadu stated that it would take 2 whole years to fully restore her body. Seeing that Anadu was in low spirits, Jojo consoled her, and they entered the open cave. When they entered, Jojo saw a huge banyan tree in the middle of the cave, which seemed to be several years old judging by its size. ________. A banyan. Here. Seeing a huge banyan tree inside the open cave, Jojo was startled and turned to look at Anadu, who, for some reason, raised her head proudly. On the ground, there were several runes around the tree, and the 4 remaining bones of Anadu were tied around the banyan tree, each facing one of the 4 directions, north, south, east, and west. Looking at Jojo, who was studying the banyan tree curiously, Anadu explained the process. According to Anadu, a banyan tree has one of the strongest life forces, lives long, and its roots are deeply embedded in the ground. So, it would help her to absorb the life force from the tree and the ground until her body was fully recovered back to its peak condition. Even though there was no need for her to stay here all the time, she insisted on staying to prevent any mishaps from happening. Sigh. Then I will visit you regularly. After failing to convince Anadu to return, Jojo, with a defeated sigh, promised her that he would visit regularly to see her. Time passed. After 2 years. In these 2 years, many things changed. Jojo's production house, Creative Child, succeeded with back-to-back blockbusters with Home Alone and its sequel Home Alone 2, directed by Kong. The big project Titanic began filming 6 months after long pre-production, during which Jojo insisted on recreating the Titanic, and the director, Lee, was replaced. The previous director, Lee, felt that pre-production was taking too long and that he had no time to sit idle and waste on a single project. So, while Jojo was looking for a suitable director for the project, he came across a truck driver named James Cameron, whom Jojo saved from a pack of werewolves. In this world, James Cameron had not yet become a director and looked quite young. But what surprised Jojo was that this James Cameron was not a normal human, he was a werewolf. When Jojo inquired about his situation and why he was being hunted down by wolves from a huge wolf coven from Russia named Lunar, Jojo, after some serious tests, including psychological tests, invited him to join DMC. And arranged a place for him to stay near the Quileute tribe with the help of Sam Muley, their leader. During one of their interactions, James mentioned that he dreamed of becoming a director when he was a kid. Seeing this as fate, Jojo decided to take a gamble. He might not be the same as James Cameron, but Jojo decided to give him a chance. He contacted Kong and asked him to guide James as his assistant director. At first, Kong was resistant, as he already had a female assistant director in mind, but finally accepted after some lovely talk with his wife. With the help of Freya and Anadu, the Cullens were able to alter the memories of the school and a few important members of Forks whom they often came in contact with. Not even Charlie was spared. This allowed them to continue attending Forks High School without arousing any suspicion. Due to Jojo disrupting the plot, there was no plot involving the Volturi in Forks, nor did Bella appear during this time. Over these 2 years, Edward would chat, flirt, and romance with Bella, doing everything with her except marrying her. When his family confronted him about the issue and suggested changing her into a cold one, even Bella expressed interest in becoming a cold one and tried to persuade him with Esme and Edith's help. Edward outright rejected them and stayed firm in his decision, stating he would never turn her into a monster or something. New Jersey. Westfield. Adams Mansion. Wednesday. Why did you hit that boy's head with a baseball bat? Morticia Adams, with a helpless look, opened her daughter's bedroom door and asked her with a defeated sigh. It had become a regular occurrence for Wednesday to do something to her classmates and be transferred or dismissed due to her mischief. This even impacted her little brother, who would always get caught in the crossfire. ______. Stab stab. Stab stab. There was no response, only Wednesday stabbing the pillow with a hand-drawn face mask of a young man. If Jojo saw this, he would turn back and run away. Stop stabbing the poor pillow. If you don't answer, I will send you to Nevermore Academy. Not getting an answer, Morticia didn't get angry, instead, with a knowing glint and a gentle smile, she spoke. ______. They started it first. They bullied Pugsley, so I taught them a lesson. Rolling her eyes, Wednesday answered her calmly, as if it were normal for her to break someone's head with a baseball bat. She knew her mother was waiting for the right situation to enroll her in the Nevermore Academy, where her parents were alumni. Asterisk. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review in Power Stone. Chapter 106, Chapter 101, every 23rd spring, for 23 days. Since the Quileute tribe had joined DMC and the supernatural cases consisted only of Level 1 and Level 2, Jojo didn't care much about it. It was allocated to the Quileute tribe and Cullens, who took it from time to time to pass the time. But the Quileute tribe was taking the task's completion seriously, as if they were fighting for a great cause. Since Jojo did not have much work to do, only hunting sinners now and then when he felt the situation was out of control, Jojo had a lot of free time. He enjoyed time with Alice and Rosalie to their heart's content and had regular workouts with either one of them at night for the past 2 years. Now, Creative Child Productions had already succeeded in producing back-to-back blockbusters, putting them in the spotlight. Los Angeles. Creative Child Headquarters. Jojo, are you sure? Jenny, who was looking at the script in his hands, asked Jojo a little skeptical. It is the script for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which Jojo has written in his free time. Yet, I am sure to buy the rights to the movie from the author of the book. And I promised her that if she agrees to sell the rights to them, she has a voice in the screenplay and story management. Nodding his head seriously, Jojo turned to Jenny and affirmed that he was serious. Sigh. I will take care of it. Looking at Jojo, who was very confident in his decision, Jenny sighed and accepted the job. At present, only one book had been published by the author J.K. Rowling. She knew that even sometimes Jojo's decisions seemed rushed, buying the rights believing there would be sequels to the books. She believed in his vision. If Jojo took an interest in it, there must be something very good in it. She was not a big fan of books, but since Jojo decided to make this novel into a movie, she needed to read it fully, so she could be very prepared for it. Now Jojo was about to travel back to Forks since he had achieved his purpose for coming here. As a founder, he needed to show his face from time to time in the headquarters, which would make things easier for Jenny to manage things. She wouldn't be forced with the burden of all the work due to his absence. So he would show his face from time to time to do some work that needed his attention. A year before, when the new headquarters had been built deep inside the Forks forest, Jojo put Jenny in charge of this creative child productions, while Freya took charge of the DMC headquarters with a promise of taking her with him when he was going to hunt a demon. She also practiced her witchcraft with the help of Aneda to increase her strength by visiting Aneda regularly to get valuable insight. After sending off Jenny, who seemed to be on a work-related call with someone. "Sir, I have traced a call which seems to be aligned with one of the cases you asked me to keep an eye on." Suddenly, his mobile lit up, and Sarah's voice came from it, informing him about her new finding. "Oh. What is it?" Hearing Sarah had found a lead on one of the cases which he asked her to keep an eye on, Jojo raised an eyebrow and became curious about which case Sarah was speaking about. "Sir, it's about the file named Creepers you retrieved from the team of cops who were investigating the disappearance of converted ones during the pet cemetery case." Getting permission to proceed with the explanation about the lead she had found in it, Sarah started to explain to him. "It was a phone call, sir. I will play the recording." With that, Sarah connected the phone call she recorded. "Call recording. Cree. Mysterious women, is this the boy with the pink and yellow car?" Derry, hesitantly, "Yet." "Mysterious women, you found its house of pain, didn't you?" Derry, alarmed, "Who is this?" "Mysterious women, you have to listen to me. What you found was an ancient place of evil, where it keeps the bodies of its victims. It's been feeding on people for centuries." Derry, in disbelief, "What? Who the hell are you?" "Mysterious women, I'm trying to help you. You don't have much time. It comes every 23rd spring, for 23 days, and it eats." Derry's sister, interjects, "Eats? Eats what?" "Mysterious women, whatever it wants. And if it's chosen you, it won't stop until it has what it came for. You can't stop it, you can only run." Derry, getting frustrated, "Why are you telling us this? How do you know all this?" "Mysterious women, sighs, I've seen it, in my dreams. Every night, the same terrible visions. And I heard the song." Derry's sister, nervously, "The song? Mysterious women, yes, Jeepers Creepers. If you hear that song, it means it's close. It's how it marks its next victims." Derry, looking at Trish, trying to understand, "This can't be real. This has to be some kind of prank or..." "Mysterious women, you're in its path, and you don't have much time. You need to get as far away as you can, now." Derry's sister, pleading, "But who are you? How can we trust you?" "Mysterious women, desperately, I'm trying to save you. I don't want to see what's going to happen to you too." Pauses, "Please, listen to me. Run, and don't look back. Cree." End of call. Hearing the full conversation, Jojo's eyes widened in surprise. He knew just by hearing the song and the mysterious woman's mention of the House of Pain. And the name of the file, Creepers, now seemed to connect the dots in his mind. This is the plot of Jeepers Creepers from his previous life, where a monster or devil or witch who seems to be a cannibal hunts innocents like a hunter and eats them slowly over the years. Right. It even has the power to regenerate after eating a part of a human it wanted to regenerate. With everything clicking in his mind, Jojo immediately remembered the plot of Jeepers Creepers. Sigh. "Sarah, contact Freya and inform her about this. Ask her what this case is about." With a defeated sigh, Jojo ordered his trusted AI assistant, Sarah, to inform Freya, who is currently in charge of DMC. Forks. DMC headquarters. Ding. Suddenly, the monitor before Freya lit up while she sat on the comfortable chair reading a handmade notebook. A woman was standing before her, seeming to have come back from completing a mission. Miss Freya. Master asked me to inform you about an emergency case. And asked you to be prepared since he is on his way back here as soon as possible. With a sound of notification, Sarah informed Freya, who raised her eyebrow in surprise hearing about it. It's been 2 years since Jojo has issued an emergency order on a supernatural case. Show me the details about the case. After a brief pause in surprise at seeing an emergency case has been issued after a long time, she asked to show the details about it. Sarah showed the details of the case with the updated version Jojo had given her to Freya, who was reading it with narrowed eyes. A cannibal who can regenerate using human parts he eats. And his identity is a mystery, but the sources suggest that he might be a serial killer, demon, some monster, or a dark witch. Reading the description piqued Freya's interest, and Sarah also played the conversation between Derry, his sister, and the mysterious woman. Did you trace who the woman is? Nodding her head, Freya stood from her chair and walked towards the bookshelves where many files and books were kept. After tracing her finger for a moment, searching the titles, she picked a file named Creepers, which she remembered her brother took from the investigation team during the pet cemetery. She opened it and started reading while marking the points that seemed to be connected with the case description. She highlighted the point in the case file that states it comes every 23rd spring, for 23 days, and it eats. _______. She frowned, seeing that the cycle of every 23rd spring, for 23 days means it will hunt every 23 years once for 23 days. And the cycle continued for a long time. Reading the description in the file and the victim's name and year. But not even once could they stop this creeper from hunting his prey. What intrigued her even more was that he seemed to be immortal for some reason or a creature with a long life. Tomorrow is the day Anata will finally get her body back. She might be interested in this creature. With a little deep thought, Freya closed the file and asked Sarah to put this creeper case on level 4 and summon the important members of the DMC for a meeting to discuss it. Before Jojo arrives, she needs to make sure that others understand this case clearly and are willing to participate in it. Asterisk. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review and Power Stone. Chapter 107, Chapter 102, Leah Clearwater. Bitengu. When Freya was fully planning to make sure everyone who wanted to participate in this case understood everything clearly before Jojo arrived here, so they could smoothly proceed with the supernatural case without wasting any time. Ding! Suddenly, the monitor screen once again lit up, interrupting her thoughts. Miss Freya, Master asked me to inform you that he was going to the site directly. Sarah, who informed her a few minutes ago, once again appeared on the screen and informed her that Jojo intended to go to the site directly. Sigh. The situation is urgent, hey. With a sigh, Freya stood and went to the meeting area where she summoned Cullens, the Quileute tribe, Mr. and Mrs. Kong, and the new wolf named James Cameron, who joined DMC through Jojo. If Jojo intends to go to the site directly, that means the situation on the other side is very serious and needs his attention as soon as possible. Ms. Freya, can I ask you something? When Freya entered the meeting room, she was accompanied by the woman who had previously reported to her when Sarah informed Freya about the supernatural case. The woman, with a little hesitation, asked the question. ________. What is it, Leah? Turning to look at the woman before her, who was a little hesitant, Freya raised her eyebrow and nodded her head. The woman's name was Leah Clearwater. Leah is tall, with an athletic and lean build. As a member of the Quileute wolf pack, her physique is toned and muscular, giving her a strong, agile appearance, and she has a warm, russet-colored skin tone. Leah's eyes are dark brown, which intensifies her piercing gaze. She has high cheekbones and an angular face, with a look that is both beautiful and fierce. Can you include me in the team you are going to form to participate in this case? After getting the nod from Freya, Leah, with a little hope, expressed her interest in joining the team Freya was going to form. _______. You need to get your tribe leader's permission to participate in it. Hearing Leah's request to join the team, Freya shook her head and informed Leah that she needed permission from the Quileute tribe. North Central Florida. East 9 Highway. A few hours before. Due to spring break at the college, the pair of brothers and sisters were traveling back to their home in a 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air. The elder sister's name is Trish Jenner, a young woman in her early 20s with a casual, laid-back style typical of a college student. She has long, straight brown hair that she often wears down, and she has a slender build. Trish was lying lazily beside her brother Derry, who was driving her light blue car with a white top. Her brother Derry Jenner is also in his early 20s, with a boyish look that makes him appear a bit younger. He has short, dark hair and an athletic build. While both were drinking and making fun of each other, Trish, who was looking out of the window, saw a stop sign. "Derry, I think I just saw a stop sign." Pulling her legs back from the top of the dashboard, she informed her brother, who seemed to have not noticed it. Chuckle. "Kidding, right?" With a chuckle, Derry looked at his sister with a mocking look. _______. If it's your car, would I be kidding? Looking at her brother who was making fun of her, with an irritated look Trish snapped back. Both of them didn't know this was the highway that was going to turn their lives upside down forever. Haha. On this road? I haven't seen a car in 50 miles. Seeing his sister in a sour mood, Derry tried to lighten the mood. After some time on the long, lonely road, a caravan came into view in front of them. Ha ha ha. Gay, gay, gay fever, no, gay forever. Ha ha ha. Did you see it? Gay forever. That's mine. 3 little brothers. When Derry noticed the caravan's license plate number, he laughed loudly, pointing at it. That's 6 idiots, that means it's sexy forever. Pfft. Hearing her little brother acting like an idiot, Trish corrected him and explained it while trying to control her laughter. _______. With a darkened face, Derry overtook the caravan and noticed a pair of elderly people who noticed them too. Look at that sex forever. Chuckle. Noticing the people in the caravan were an old couple looking back at them, Derry, with a chuckle, mocked them in a low voice. Trish. It's you in 40 years. When Trish heard her brother once again start to make fun of someone, she rolled her eyes. Their conversation shifted from the old couple to their parents, their friends, and their neighbors. Not able to tolerate her brother's rant anymore, Trish turned on the radio to hear some music as time passed. Cree cree. Sigh. Seeing that even at the right time the radio was not working, Trish sighed defeatedly in her seat. Don't worry, Trish. I will sing for you. Cough cough. With a huge grin, Derry pointed at himself and declared that he was going to sing a song for his sister. Meanwhile, his sister's expression turned darker upon hearing the non-human song from her brother. Screech. Suddenly, they heard a tire screeching sound. When both of them turned to look back to see what happened, they saw an old truck that looked very rusted, very close to their car and about to collide. Its speed was increasing rapidly. Screech screech. Both of them were shocked, and when Derry tried to move away, the old truck showed no hesitation in following them. Seeing this, both of them panicked. After some right and left maneuvers to shake off the old truck that seemed intent on hitting them, Derry made a final turn to the left just before the old truck could collide. The rusty truck sped past them as if nothing had happened, continuing down the road. Huff huff. Realizing they had escaped from the old, rusty truck, both of them took deep breaths, the adrenaline rush from their near-death experience making them breathe heavily. While looking at the back of the old rusty truck, they instinctively tried to note the license plate number, but all they saw was the word Bitengu. Both of them cursed at the old rusty truck, which paid them no heed and moved forward rapidly. Their conversation shifted to thoughts about the story of Kenny and Darla, who went missing on the same highway they were now traveling on. It has been 23 years since Kenny Brandon and Darla Cleaway, a young interracial couple who attended Wheaton Valley High in the 70s, vanished on the school's prom night after being crowned king and queen. Both were presumed dead. Stop. Damn. I was shivering. Thinking about the creepy tale they had heard in school and college, Trish shivered, a little fear evident in her voice. By his attitude, Derry didn't believe in this story, while on the other hand, Trish believed it. While they were bickering back and forth, an old, dilapidated church came into view. Just as they were about to pass the old church, they noticed the same rusty truck was parked in front of it. They see a figure, a tall, mysterious person in a trench coat throwing what appears to be a body wrapped in a blood-stained sheet down a large pipe near the church. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. All this is seen by the siblings, who just slowed down their car to take a view. Underscore 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 underscore. The figure, realizing he's been seen, watches them ominously as they drive away, rattled by what they witnessed. Both Trish and Derry were shocked and began to panic. They were not sure what they had just seen, a man who seemed to throw something covered in white cloth with many tints of red, which they were sure was blood. As the car drove faster and faster, they tried their best to get the hell out of the place as soon as possible. As they drove further, Derry insisted they should go back and investigate and stop the car. Seeing her brother, who was very adamant about investigating the old church, Trish reluctantly agreed. When they returned to the church, they saw no sign of the old rusty truck or the unknown mysterious man. Derry tried to look down the pipe but ended up falling in. Thud. Inside, Derry discovered a disturbing scene that sent chills down his spine. His legs started to tremble. The sight he saw was of walls lined with human bodies stitched together and preserved like grotesque decorations. The bodies formed a morbid tapestry across the church basement. Gulp. His eyes widened when everything clicked in his mind that these bodies were the victims of the mysterious man they saw. Outside the church, seeing she was not getting any noise from underground, Trish looked at the highway. Her eyes widened in shock seeing the old rusty truck coming back to the church. She hurriedly warned Derry, shouting through the pipe, and tried to start the car and move away from the highway as soon as possible. During this time, Derry, who was visibly panicking, came out of the church and entered the car. Terrified, Derry and Trish fled the church and sought help at a diner nearby. While there, they received a phone call from a mysterious woman. The mysterious woman cryptically warned them about what they'd encountered, referring to the creepers' habits and stating that they were in grave danger. Asterisk. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review and Power Stone. Chapter 108, Chapter 103, Someone Sniffed Your Underwear. After asking Sarah to inform Freya that he intended to go to the site first and update her about the situation, he asked Sarah to make a call to the diner from where she traced the call between a boy named Derry, his sister Trish, and a mysterious woman. I will connect a call with them. After hearing Jojo's order, Sarah immediately called the diner where Derry and Trish were currently at. Ring ring. The phone rang, but no one answered. Seeing no one was picking up, Sarah called the diner again. Florida. East 9 Highway. Down Hotel. After the mysterious woman's warning that they needed to run if they heard one of the old rusty songs, Derry ended the call, cursing at the mysterious woman who had called them. While Derry was panicking, Trish was trying her best to calm her brother. She had never seen her little brother panic to this extent. If she didn't know him, she would literally consider him a crazy person. Everyone present in the diner was looking at them while the atmosphere was heavy. The owner of the hotel had already informed the cops at Derry's insistence, and they were on their way. Even though Trish was scared out of her wits when the mysterious man driving the old truck literally tried to hit and run them, she couldn't come to believe her brother, who was anxiously saying he saw many dead bodies and even claimed he saw the bodies of Kenny and Darla, who went missing and were presumed dead for the last 23 years. Ring ring. Once again, the telephone at the corner of the hotel rang, capturing everyone's attention. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. Hearing the ringing of the phone, Derry looked at it, contemplating whether to answer or not. Ring ring. After a full ring, the call ended. A few seconds later, the telephone started to ring again. Looking at her brother, who was still not picking up the call, Trish sighed, and with determination on her face, walked toward the telephone and picked up the receiver. Hello, is this Derry? When Trish answered the call, instead of an old woman's voice, she heard the voice of a young man, and she guessed the caller might be around her brother's age. Who are you? Why do you know my brother's name? Narrowing her eyes at the caller, who directly addressed her brother by name, Trish asked seriously. She'd had enough of these mysterious games, her brother coming out of the old church, the mysterious old woman, and now a mysterious young man. I know his name because he somehow got involved in one of the supernatural cases we at DMC handle. After listening to her question, the young man calmly stated that he knew her brother's name because he had somehow gotten involved in a supernatural case. What do you mean? Where did he get involved? With a pause, Trish turned to look at her brother, who was trying his best to listen to the conversation by pressing his ear close to the receiver. Let me give you a little explanation, since your time is running out. Once Trish asked the question, the young man calmly stated he would explain shortly. The mysterious man at the old church is not human. He is a demon or a witch who commits cannibalism. His name is Creeper. He kills and eats his victims to regenerate his damaged body parts or get a better one. Due to your brother's earlier trespass into its territory, its next targets are you and your brother. Only I can save you both, so listen carefully. Stay at the hotel, don't go anywhere, especially the highway. Even the police can't save you. Stay put. I will be there around 12 AM to 1 AM. Until then, hold on. Ding ding. After giving a long warning and brief explanation, the call ended. Underscore 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 underscore. Gulp. If this is real. Derry, what mess have you dragged us into? Looking at her brother, who was waiting for her answer, Trish gulped. If what the caller said was true, then her brother had literally summoned something beyond their capabilities. What? What did the caller say? Feeling his sister's complicated gaze on him, Derry couldn't handle the silence and broke it by asking his sister what the caller had said. Sigh. It's not an old lady, it's a young man. He stated that you have provoked a demon or something that is determined to kill us both and eat us. He said only he could save us and asked us to wait here in the hotel with the police until he arrives. He will arrive around midnight. Until then, he asked us to hold on. With a defeated sigh, Trish massaged her temples while explaining to her brother, whose face was darkening with each word she said. Ding! With a ding, the door to the diner opened, and two cops in uniform, a man and a woman, entered the diner. They were Sergeant David Tubbs and his deputy, Dana Lang, who had come here after receiving the complaint. Seeing the cops had arrived, Derry and Trish looked at each other, contemplating whether to go with the cops or wait for the mysterious man. Both cops were welcomed by the diner owner, an old man, and his daughter, who explained why they had called the cops. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. The old man explained to the cops, who looked at the pair of siblings up and down, as they seemed very suspicious. Their first thought was whether these siblings were playing a prank on the diner and whether the situation had escalated to this point in a way they hadn't expected. But after hearing the explanation from others in the diner, their suspicion eased a little. When David walked toward the siblings and asked what happened, Derry, who was anxious, started to explain what he saw in the basement of the old church. Snort. When David heard that there were more than 500 to 600 bodies glued all over the wall, he looked at Derry like he was a fool. The bodies were stitched and preserved to create a grotesque tapestry across the walls and ceiling. Some of the bodies are arranged in various poses, while others are hung in clusters. Many of these corpses look like they've been there for decades, while others are more recent. But he didn't interrupt Derry's explanation as he continued to describe what he saw down there. Wait, you mean you saw around 500 to 600 dead bodies, and you even saw the bodies of Kenny and Darla, whose bodies have not decomposed? Unable to make sense of it, David tried to calm down Derry, who seemed to be speaking nonsense. Even the diner owner, the old man, came over and asked them to keep quiet. If you don't believe me and think I'm lying, then drive to the old church, and you'll see. Looking at the cop's face, which clearly showed that they weren't buying his story, Derry persisted. No. No. I didn't say I don't believe you. It's just that your story is big. Seeing Derry almost on the edge of losing control, David tried to calm him down. Their conversation was interrupted by the daughter of the diner owner, who was anxious and informed them that one of the cars outside had been ravaged by someone. Hearing this, Derry and Trish hurried out to see the car was indeed ravaged, with many things scattered on the ground as if someone had searched their car for something. They saw a man standing near your car, sniffing at your laundry, especially in underwear, just a moment ago. With a worried look on her face, the daughter of the diner owner pointed at the white underwear lying on the ground. Damn, now he even knows my name. Derry, who saw the underwear, hurried to the car and picked it up. His name was written on it with a permanent marker, and it had some stains. Seeing that the situation was serious and that someone was indeed following the siblings, David tried to contact the control room through his walkie-talkie. He requested the control room to send a patrol team to check on the old church to investigate it. While Derry was looking around at the scattered clothes and cursing his luck, Trish noticed a handprint on the handle of the car door. Asterisk. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review in Power Stone. Chapter 109, Chapter 104, Contact Sheriff Dan Tigo. If you don't believe me. Looking at the dresses scattered around the car with narrowed eyes, David connected his comms and asked the control room to send a patrol team to the old church. He didn't believe what Derry had said earlier, but now he was sure there was a stalker following the siblings. This kid must be frightened after seeing something in the church where stalkers hide out, probably some drug dealers. As for Derry's complaint, David had brushed it off earlier, not taking it seriously. Currently, David's primary suspect was some drug dealer who had been caught off guard by Derry entering his territory, and who might have scared the boy out of his wits. Perhaps it was drug users unconscious from excessive substance abuse that Derry had stumbled upon. Sigh. Kids, let. After requesting assistance from the control room, David looked at his deputy, Dana Lang, giving her a nod. He turned back to the siblings and was about to suggest escorting them to the police station when something caught his attention. Is this a handprint? Noticing his sister staring at the door handle with narrowed eyes, Derry stepped closer to examine it. His eyes widened when he saw a clear handprint on the doorknob and exclaimed in surprise. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. Hearing Derry's mention of a handprint, David hurried forward along with his deputy, Dana, to take a closer look. Underscore 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 underscore. Looking at the handprint, David narrowed his eyes. The print looked strange, as if dusted with an unusual powder. Sigh. Kids, let us escort you to the police station so you can be safe. With a deep sigh, David turned to look at Derry and Trish, urging them to get into the car so they could be escorted back to the station. David and Dana planned to follow behind in their patrol car. But, he asked us to stay here, until he arrives. David's momentary relief was interrupted by Trish, who informed him of the phone call they'd received. Who? Dana, overhearing Trish, asked her with a confused expression. Well, we received a phone call from a mysterious woman. She warned us about a strange man and told us to run if we ever heard a certain song. As Trish recounted the call, Derry chimed in, explaining what had happened at the hotel while they were waiting for the cops. After that call, another call came. Trish answered it. Derry hesitated, glancing at his sister to continue since she had been the one to take the second call. Huff. Well, this time, the caller was probably a teenage boy. He told us to stay at the hotel until he arrived, saying only he could save us from the creeper. Taking a deep breath, Trish finished explaining what she had heard from the second caller. Underscore. Sneer. The creeper? A demon? Don't tell me you believe that nonsense. He's probably the stalker trying to manipulate you into staying at the hotel so he could carry out his plan. Hearing Trish's explanation, David and Dana were momentarily stunned. Then, with a sneer, they exchanged incredulous glances before David raised an eyebrow at Trish, mocking her belief. Underscore. Looking at the disbelief etched on their faces, Trish hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Their expressions made it clear they thought her story was ridiculous. There was a point in the claim that the mysterious man might have been trying to trick the siblings into staying at the hotel. After packing up the scattered dresses, David once again urged Trish and Derry to follow them back to the police station. With a little hesitation, Trish and Derry left the hotel, with the police car following closely behind them. Cree. Hello, is this David? Cree. Just as they were about to head toward the police station, a voice suddenly crackled through the walkie-talkie on David's shoulder. Underscore. Click. This is David, who are you? Not expecting someone to contact him through the police intercom, David narrowed his eyes as he answered the call, a trace of unease in his voice. Listen, Mr. David. I don't have much time, so let me get straight to the point. The siblings have been marked by a demon who will come for them at any cost. You cannot protect them. Let them stay at the hotel. Only I can stop the creeper. If you don't believe me, contact Sheriff Dan Tashtigo. Cree. After the cryptic message, the call abruptly ended, leaving all four of them staring at each other. Hey, who are you? How did you manage to connect to our police intercom? Dana, frustrated by the sudden disconnection, attempted to question the mysterious caller, but all they got in return was the static hum of the line being cut off. Underscore. This time, both David and Dana were deeply concerned. Whoever had contacted them could hack their secure communication system. Sir, the caller mentioned we need to contact Sheriff Dan Tashtigo for more information. After a brief silence, David nodded, signaling Dana to reach out to the sheriff and get to the bottom of the situation. Meanwhile, Trish, who had overheard the voice on the walkie-talkie, was confident it was the same person who had called her at the hotel earlier. Weow. As Dana stepped aside to contact Sheriff Dan Tashtigo, a police car pulled up at the hotel. Following David's instructions, the forensic officer who arrived with the patrol car carefully lifted the strange handprint from the doorknob, using his years of expertise. Once the sample was secured, the officer and forensic expert left the scene. A few minutes later, Deputy Dana Lang returned from her call with a dark expression etched on her face. Seeing her reaction, David instantly understood they were in serious trouble, and it was only a matter of time before the storm came knocking. Sir, I've spoken with Sheriff Dan Tashtigo. He's asked us to stay put. He's on his way here with backup. Dana's grim tone matched the tension in the air as she relayed the sheriff's message. Nod. Kids, get back inside. With a firm nod, David pointed at the hotel, instructing the siblings to return to safety. He then unholstered his Glock 17, checking the ammo in the magazine before reloading it with practiced precision. Half an hour before. Los Angeles Airport. Currently, Jojo was seated in the waiting area, preparing to board the plane. After hearing the call from Derry and her sister, along with the mysterious woman's warning about the creeper, he immediately contacted Freya to inform her of his decision to head there first. He then instructed Sarah, his AI assistant, to keep a close watch on the siblings. Ding! Sire, the police have arrived at the hotel and are now speaking with the siblings. While Jojo waited for the plane, Sarah notified him of the police's arrival at the hotel where the siblings were staying. _______. Sarah. I want to hear their conversation. After some thought, Jojo requested Sarah to relay the conversation between the officers and the siblings. From the conversation, Jojo could tell that the two police officers didn't believe Derry and her colleagues. The situation was escalating quickly, and the siblings were about to attempt traveling to the police station through the highways exactly where the creeper was lying in wait. Sigh. Sarah, connect me to the senior officer there. With a sigh, Jojo directed Sarah to establish a connection with the senior officer on site. The senior officer's name is David, and his deputy is Dana Lang. I will now connect you to Officer David. After a brief pause, the call was answered by the officer Jojo wished to speak with. Listen, Mr. David, I don't have much time, so I'll get straight to the point. The siblings are being targeted by a demon who will stop at nothing to kill them. You won't be able to protect them. Let them stay at the hotel. Only I can stop the creeper. If you still don't believe me, contact Sheriff Dan Tashtigo. After confirming that David was on the other end, Jojo wasted no time in giving his warning, urging him to contact Sheriff Dan Tashtigo, an officer who had dedicated his life to hunting the creeper after the demon ruthlessly took his family. During this time, Sarah continued gathering information on anything related to the creeper and kept Freya, who was stationed at the base, informed. Jojo knew that this was the only way to stop the police from unknowingly leading themselves into the creeper's trap on the highway. Asterisk. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review in Power Stone. Chapter 110, Chapter 105, Creeper makes his appearance. After Sheriff Dan Tashtigo instructed them to stay at the hotel and remain vigilant, David, along with his deputy Dana, waited patiently inside, their guard up as ordered. As time passed, the once busy hotel began to empty out. Only a few customers lingered, scattered among the tables. The same lady who had previously warned them about the car being tampered with now served the two cops strong, freshly brewed coffee. Meanwhile, Trish and Derry sat at a back table in the last row, quietly waiting for the food they had ordered. Although the cryptic calls and the officers' earlier disbelief hinted that the situation they were caught in was far from ordinary, they felt a slight sense of relief knowing that two armed officers were present to protect them from whatever danger loomed. Cree cree. This is Tim. This is Tim. The suspected old church is on fire. I repeat, the suspected old church is on fire. Requesting backup. Over. Cree cree. The tense calm in the hotel shattered as the walkie-talkies on both David's and Dana's shoulders crackled to life with the urgent voice of an officer. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. Both cops immediately straightened, their relaxed demeanor vanishing. David pressed the button on his walkie-talkie with a grim expression. This is David. Report the situation. Over. Cree cree. This is Tim. I received an order from the control room to investigate the old church on East 9 Highway. I suspect the culprit has already left the scene. Over. Wait. Who are? Cree. Bang bang. Tim's response was cut short by the sound of panic in his voice, followed by gunshots. The abrupt end to the call sent a chill through everyone in the hotel. Cree cree. Tim, are you there? I repeat, Tim, are you there? Dana frantically tried to reconnect, her voice sharp with urgency. Everyone present in the hotel, including the siblings, was frozen, their eyes fixed on the deputies. Silence. Underscore 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 underscore. But all Dana received was silence. The absence of any response from the other end deepened the tension in the room. The air in the hotel started to get heavy. No matter how much both Dana and David tried to contact Tim, all they received was silence. Cree. Now, I don't care what the weatherman says. When the weatherman says it's raining, you'll never hear me complaining, I'm certain the sun will shine. I don't care how the weather vane points. When the weather vane points to gloomy, it's gotta be sunny to me, when your eyes look into mine. Cree. The silence was broken by a classic old song being played on the other side, which made Derry's eyes widen in shock. It's that song, the mysterious lady has warned us about. Standing from his seat in a hurry, Derry exclaimed with clear fear visible in his voice. Crash! With a crashing sound, the signal was completely cut off from Tim's side. Calm down, Mr. Jenners. We will look into the situation. Looking at Derry, who was once again beginning to panic, Dana consoled him with clear worry visible on her face. Ring, ring. The next second, David's phone started to ring. When he answered the call with a solemn expression, the forensic officer's voice came from the other end. David, the hand imprint we took before from the car belongs to dead skin. That's why it looked like powder. The forensic officer informed them with a serious tone while examining the test result in his hand. Dead. Hearing this, David asked confusedly. Yeah, not just dead, dead for a long time. With an understanding confirmation, the forensic officer corrected David to make him realize how old the dead cells in the hand imprint were. Sigh. Unfortunately, I couldn't find whose handprint it is. With a little regret, the forensic officer completed his report, and the call ended. Vroom. After the call ended, suddenly the same old rusty truck moved past the shop at high speed. That was his truck. Derry, who caught a glimpse of the caravan, immediately became alert and shouted, pointing at the highway. Stay here. Dana, I will go and check. Hearing Derry's words, not wasting a moment, David stood from his place and told Dana to stay and protect the siblings while he went to check on the old rusty truck that had just passed the hotel. Sir. Sheriff Dan Tashtigo asked us not to leave this hotel until he arrives with backup. Seeing that David was intending to follow the old rusty truck, Dana tried to convince him about the warning of Sheriff Dan Tashtigo. But David didn't listen to her. He just placed his hand on the gun holster, signaling to Dana that he wouldn't hesitate to shoot if he really encountered the culprit. 5 minutes later. It had been 5 minutes since he left in pursuit of the old rusty truck that passed the hotel. But still, he hadn't caught a single sight of the old rusty truck before him or around the area until his eyesight reached its limit. He was now moving at high speed, but even though he couldn't find any traces of the truck. Cree. Now, I don't care what the weatherman says. When the weatherman says it's raining, you'll never hear me complaining, I'm certain the sun will shine. I don't care how the weather vane points. When the weather vane points to gloomy, it's gotta be sunny to me, when your eyes look into mine. Jeepers creepers, where'd ya get those peepers? Jeepers creepers, where'd ya get those eyes? Gosh, all get up, how'd they get so lit up? Gosh, all get up, how'd they get that size? Golly gee! When you turn those heaters on, woe is me. Got to get my cheaters on, jeepers creepers. Where'd ya get those peepers? On, those weepers. How they hypnotize, where'd ya get those eyes? Where'd ya get those eyes? Where'd ya get those eyes? With a screeching sound, the radio in the car automatically turned on, and once again the old classic song started to play, with little disturbances coming from time to time. Underscore 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 underscore. Looking at the radio that had turned on automatically, David was stunned. He was really sure he turned off the radio after hearing Derry mention about this song to avoid being targeted by the creeper. Gulp. Thud thud. Screech. While David's attention was on the radio, suddenly something dropped on top of the moving car, shaking its momentum. Gulp. But he didn't stop the car. He continued to drive forward while starting to sweat. He could clearly tell by the sound that someone had landed on top of his car. But there were no big trees on the way, nor any vehicles that one could jump from to another. It was like someone jumped from the sky. He slowly lowered the window glass and reached for the car's side view mirror, turning it slightly upwards. He was trying to get a view of the top of his car to see who had landed on the roof. But all he could see were old boots, not the full view of the creeper. Ch. While holding the steering wheel in one hand, David took his gun from the holster and loaded it. Thud. With a thud, an axe cut through the roof as if it were butter, just in time for David to dodge it by moving sideways, just before the axe could pass through the middle of his head. Screech. The car started to lose control and moved in a zigzag pattern, screeching as it did. No matter how much the car moved, it couldn't shake off the creeper who was standing on top of the car. Crack! Suddenly, a dark hand, which seemed like some kind of preserved dead hand, started to tear through the roof using the cut the axe had made a moment ago, like it was opening a gift box. _______. Just then, David saw the appearance of the creeper for the first time, which made his eyes widen in shock. A tall, muscular, and imposing figure, with a broad chest and powerful limbs that suggested immense physical strength, standing around 6 feet 3 inches to 6 feet 6 inches. Its hands were long and clawed, with sharp talons capable of ripping through flesh and other materials. Its skin was dark, leathery, and rough, resembling a reptilian or bat-like texture. The skin appeared aged and otherworldly, further emphasizing its supernatural nature. The creeper had human-like eyes but shifted to a predatory, animalistic glare when it looked at David, who was driving the car, staring at it with fear indicating it was ready to hunt him down. Its nose was flat and bat-like, with nostrils suited for detecting prey through fear and adrenaline. Grin. The creeper often displayed a menacing grin while looking at the frightened David. It revealed a mouth full of sharp, fang-like teeth. Its jaws could unhinge like a snake's, allowing it to consume larger pieces of flesh, and its pointed and bat-like features contributed to its demonic aesthetic. The creeper wore a dark, tattered trench coat and a wide-brimmed hat, which gave it a sinister, almost human-like appearance when viewed from a distance. Bang bang! Bang! Feeling panicked, David didn't hesitate. He pointed his gun at the creeper, who grinned at him, and started shooting. Gray! Feeling the impact of the bullet, the creeper let out a visible scream, indicating the bullet had caused damage to it. Break! With a sudden break, the creeper finally fell to the ground. But before David could breathe a sigh of relief, the creeper, who had fallen due to the sudden break, quickly stood up. Ting ting! Ting! The area where the bullet had pierced moments ago started to heal at a visible rate, and the bullets in its body fell to the ground one by one, ineffective. _______. Looking at the creeper, who was eyeing him menacingly and clearly pissed off by the shootout earlier, David knew it was about to attack again with its axe. Bonk bonk! Hey, move away from him! An old car arrived behind the creeper while the flashlight was still on, showing the creeper's full appearance. An elderly man carrying a shotgun stepped out of the car, pointed his gun at the creeper, and warned him. Asterisk. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review in Power Stone. Chapter 111, Chapter 106, David gets baptized. When the creeper was about to attack David, who had shot at it earlier, it stared at him menacingly, a wide grin plastered on its face, showcasing its sharp teeth. But suddenly, a flash of light came from behind the creeper, startling them. Due to the light, David couldn't see who had arrived on the opposite side. Bonk bonk. The old car that had arrived behind the creeper stopped and honked at the stranger standing before it. At that moment, the old man driving the car noticed the axe the mysterious figure was carrying. On the opposite side was a cop, looking very beat up with a few bloody bruises on his face, holding a gun in his hand. Behind him was the cop's car, which had suffered major damage. Click! The old man, observing the scene, grabbed the shotgun from the seat beside him and stepped out of the car. Hey, move away from him! After stepping out, the old man pointed the gun at the creeper's back and warned it to step away from David, who looked a little stunned. Is reinforcement finally here? Hearing the voice, David's hope of escaping this demon in front of him began to rise. Underscore. When the creeper heard the old man's warning, it stood still, not moving an inch, maintaining its silence. I said move away. Put your weapon down. Bang! Seeing that the attacker wasn't responding to his warning, the old man frowned and fired a shot into the ground beside the creeper, attempting to intimidate it into giving up its weapon. Underscore. Shit! At that moment, David's eyes widened in realization the one who was trying to help him wasn't reinforcements but just an old man who happened to be a passerby. Attracted by the commotion caused by him and the creeper, the old man had approached the scene. Run away! Hurry up! Don't come near him! Even though David was terrified of death, he couldn't let an innocent life be taken because of him. He hurriedly shouted at the old man to escape. Grr! While David was trying to warn the old man, the creeper slowly turned, glaring at him menacingly, a low growl escaping its mouth. Underscore. Holy fuck! Looking at the creeper's grotesque face, the old man froze in terror and instinctively took a few steps back. Bang click! Bang click! This time, the old man didn't hesitate. He aimed the shotgun at the creeper's face, which was now smirking and baring its razor-sharp teeth, and opened fire. The shots hit their mark, shattering half of the creeper's face. It fell to its knees in pain. Even though it could regenerate, the creeper could still feel pain. It had never expected a shotgun blast to take away half of its face. Ah! Seeing the monster down on its knees, the old man started to regain confidence and took a few steps forward to get a closer look at the creature before him. Don't get closer! Come on, hurry up! Let's get out of here! Noticing the old man moving closer to examine the creeper, David shouted in alarm. He hurried to the old man's side, jumped into the car, and urged him to get in quickly. Nod. With a nod, the old man climbed into the car without hesitation, using the creeper's distraction caused by its shattered face. Vroom! David started the car and sped back toward the hotel, intending to wait there for reinforcements. If he had known this would happen, he would never have come here alone to confront the culprit. Sigh. After 5 minutes of speeding along the main road, David let out a sigh. What is that thing? The old man broke the silence, his voice trembling slightly as he began to ask about the monster they had just escaped from. Swish! The conversation was abruptly interrupted by something that smashed through the window. A sharp object pierced through the old man's head, pinning it to the seat. Splash! Underscore. Blood splattered everywhere. David's face turned pale, his eyes widened in shock as he realized what had happened. Panicked, he slammed the accelerator, pushing the car to its maximum speed. Crash! The door was suddenly ripped open with force by a massive hand with sharp claws. That's when David saw it, the creeper, now with wings unfurled, flying after the car. Bang bang! David fired 2 shots from his pistol, both striking the creeper's wings. The shots slowed it down, but as it fell back, it grabbed the old man's body, his head still pinned to the seat, and dragged it out of the car. Oh God! Save me! If I escape today, I'll pray to you daily. Tears streaming down his face, David sped down the highway, fear gripping him as he prayed desperately for his life. The creeper, however, didn't pursue him further. Instead, it flew to a nearby tree, perched on one of its branches, and began eating the old man's head without a hint of regret. At 12:45 a.m. inside the hotel, Derry and his sister Trish, along with Deputy Dana Lang, sat at one of the tables with grim expressions. They had already sent the hotel owner and his daughter home, following orders to stay at the hotel until reinforcements arrived. If the killer attacked, Dana didn't want to drag the father and daughter into the mess. Since the attacker seemed to be after the siblings, she had chosen to stay and protect them until backup came. The atmosphere in the room was heavy. Just moments ago, Dana had received a call from the forensic officer about the test results on the fingerprint they had collected. Derry and Trish, who were nearby during the call, overheard the conversation. Both siblings were shocked, and Trish looked at Derry with wide eyes. The forensic officer reported that the powder on the fingerprint indicated the presence of dead skin that was extremely old. He also mentioned that his conversation with David had been abruptly cut off. Despite repeated attempts, he had been unable to re-establish contact with him. Since then, the tension in the room had been palpable. On one side, Dana Lang was trying to reach David through her walkie-talkie, her agitation evident as each attempt failed. But no matter how much she tried, David did not respond. Why haven't reinforcements arrived yet? Losing his patience, Derry spoke in frustration, glaring out at the empty road through the glass window. Let's wait patiently, Derry. Seeing her brother's frustration, Trish tried to calm him down. Her eyes, however, kept darting toward the telephone, as if expecting a call. She was hoping to hear from the mysterious boy who had contacted them earlier. Meanwhile, Dana silently observed the siblings, lost in her thoughts. Vroom! The roar of an engine outside snapped Dana out of her thoughts. She looked out the window, and what she saw made her frown deeply. Don't go out! She quickly drew her pistol and ordered the siblings, who were about to approach the window to see who had arrived at the hotel, to stay back. After giving her orders to the siblings, Dana cautiously stepped out of the hotel, her pistol aimed intently at the car. The front windshield was cracked, making it impossible for her to see who was inside, but she could tell the vehicle was severely damaged. Click! A muffled sound came from the car as the door creaked open. Inside, David lay slumped over the steering wheel, letting out faint groans. Sir! What happened to you? Seeing that the person in the car was none other than David, the man she had been frantically trying to contact, Dana panicked and rushed forward to help him. Dana! I finally made it. That thing, it's not human. It can fly, regenerate, and has superhuman strength. With Dana's support, David stepped out of the car, grimacing in pain. That's when she noticed the extent of his injuries. David was missing his left arm, and a massive slash ran across the left side of his face, rendering him unrecognizable. His left eye was gone, likely from the impact of the wound. Seeing David's condition, Derry, who had been watching from inside the hotel, rushed out to help Dana. Together, they brought him inside. Once inside, they gently laid David down on a nearby couch. Trish quickly grabbed a cloth and pressed it against his wounds, doing her best to stop the bleeding. Sir, what happened to you? Why are you injured? Why? Dana's voice quivered as she bombarded David with questions, her concern evident. Before David had left the hotel, he had been perfectly fine. Now, he was nearly unrecognizable, his body battered and broken. Something terrible had happened. I saw it. David's voice trembled, and his body shivered as he spoke, his words stuttering. He looked as though he was on the verge of breaking down, much like Derry when he first emerged from the old church. Gulp. What? Derry swallowed hard, his chest tightening as he looked at the captain. For some reason, he felt an unsettling connection to David's fear. Perhaps now, the captain, who had previously dismissed Derry's claims, would understand the terror he had experienced. The devil. The one chasing you is the devil. Unable to contain his voice, David shouted, his trembling hand grabbing Derry's shoulder as if to anchor himself. With his remaining strength, he began to explain the horrors he had encountered after leaving the hotel. Asterisk. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review in Power Stone. Chapter 112, Chapter 107, Tash Tegos realizes. Jojo arrives at dawn. While David was explaining how he was ambushed by a strange, demon-like creature, his voice trembled. He recounted how the creature mercilessly killed an old man right in front of him, chased him like a predator playing with its prey, and slaughtered 4 unfortunate people who had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. Gulp. Hearing David's explanation, Deputy Dana, Derry, and Trish turned pale. Their faces reflected sheer terror as they involuntarily gulped, the weight of his words sinking in. Dana, try calling Sheriff Dan Tash Tego. Right now, our only hope is him. After taking a moment to steady himself, David instructed Dana to contact Sheriff Dan Tash Tego, the man who had promised reinforcements to help them. Sigh. Sir, I've been trying to contact them, but there's no response on the other side. Dana shook her head in disappointment as she sighed, her voice laced with frustration. What about the intercom? Frowning, David pressed further, hoping for a different answer. I've already informed them, sir. Sheriff Dan Tash Tego's special team has left, and they're on their way. Dana nodded slightly and informed him that she had already sent a message through the intercom system, notifying the reinforcements. Damn, then what's taking so long? David clenched his fists and cursed under his breath. The frustration of knowing help was coming but not knowing when it would arrive gnawed at him. Old North Church. The entire Old North Church was engulfed in flames as firefighters worked tirelessly, aiming water cannons from their fire trucks to extinguish the roaring blaze. Come on! Do something! This fire needs to be put out immediately! Sheriff Dan Tash Tego shouted in desperation, his voice carrying over the chaos. He ran a hand through his hair, his frustration and anxiety evident. The evidence inside that church is the most valuable lead my team and I have been hunting for all these years like a bunch of crazed lunatics. His eyes stayed locked on the burning structure as the flames danced higher, consuming what might be the culmination of years of relentless investigation. His heart sank as each second passed, the fire showing no sign of relenting despite the firefighters' efforts. Flashback. While patrolling with his special team, a unit he had meticulously assembled to hunt and eradicate the creepers once and for all, Sheriff Dan Tash Tego received an urgent call from a fellow officer. At first, he was reluctant to entertain it. The mission at hand was critical, and distractions were the last thing he needed. But a nagging instinct gnawed at him, compelling him to believe that the call might somehow be linked to the creeper they were tracking. His gut feeling proved correct. When he finally answered, the confused yet urgent voice of a female cop on the other end filled his ears with unsettling details. As she explained the situation, his eyes widened in realization the creeper had already chosen its next targets. Without hesitation, he ordered his team to the old church, which he suspected held critical evidence tied to the creature's activities. At the same time, he dispatched 4 fully armed patrol units to the hotel where David, Deputy Dana, and the siblings Derry and Trish were located. They were the creeper's targets, and their survival was paramount. But despite knowing the urgency of protecting the lives at the hotel, Tash Tego couldn't ignore the significance of the old church. He believed it housed vital clues that could finally lead to the creeper's demise, a chance to put an end to the nightmare once and for all. 15 minutes later. The fire at the Old North Church was finally under control, the relentless blasts from the water cannons gradually extinguishing the flames. Sigh. Sheriff Dan Tashtigo let out a breath of relief as he surveyed the scene. Wiping the sweat from his brow, he turned to Michelle, his deputy and trusted second-in-command. Michelle, take the team and search the remains of the church. Look for anything, documents, items, remains, anything that can give us a lead, he instructed firmly, his tone leaving no room for hesitation. As Michelle rounded up the team and approached the smoldering ruins, Tashtego's attention was drawn to his ringing phone. Recognizing the number, he realized it was the same female cop who had called him earlier. He picked up. Sheriff Dan Tashtego. He answered, only to be immediately bombarded by Deputy Dana Lang's frantic voice on the other end. Sheriff! Where are you? Where is the reinforcement you said you'd send? Why haven't they arrived yet? Her anxious questions struck him like a blow, and his expression turned grim. What? He muttered under his breath. A sinking realization dawned on him. He had already sent the patrol units to the hotel, but if they hadn't arrived, there was only one chilling explanation: the reinforcements must have encountered the creeper. Wasting no time, Tashtego grabbed his walkie-talkie and attempted to contact the patrol cars. Patrol Unit Alpha, respond. This is Sheriff Dan Tashtego. Come in. Only silence answered him. He tried again. Beta Unit, report your status. Still nothing. His jaw clenched as dread coursed through him. Whatever had happened, it was worse than he feared. I'll be there soon. Tashtego finally said to Dana, his voice heavy with urgency. We've lost contact with the reinforcements. That likely means they've encountered the creeper. Be on high alert. Do not under any circumstances let your guard down. I'm on my way. He hung up and threw his phone onto the passenger seat of his car, his hands gripping the wheel as he prepared to race to the hotel. In the back of his mind, he knew every second counted. Down hotel. Vroom. After hearing the response from Sheriff Dan Tashtego, David's face turned pale. He was sure they must have met that devil. Just when the atmosphere among them was getting tense, they were interrupted by the sound of a car engine roaring. 222. 222. And the old, simple car stopped at the parking lot, which is located at the front of the hotel. Hearing this, all three inside looked out of the hotel to see who had arrived through opening the curtain a little. Click. With a click, one of the car doors opened, and a young teen with silvery white hair, around 16 years old, stepped out. Sigh. Finally, I arrived. I should buy a car. Damn, this time it really got me. With a relieved sigh to see the hotel sign before him, and by the look of it, it seems there is no attack launched on it for now, he cursed and contemplated buying a car. Is that kid still safe? With a shaky voice, a middle-aged woman, likely in her early 50s, stepped out of the driver's seat and spoke. She had a serious and weathered face, with features that suggested someone who has lived a life of hardship and introspection. When she looked at the hotel, her eyes carried a haunted look, noticing the siblings and the cops looking back at them. Who are you? Seeing it was not the reinforcement but a teen and an old lady, with a frown, David questioned. _________. It was me, who called before. Hi, I am Jojo. Hearing the question from David, with a smile, Jojo introduced himself while signaling a call using his hand. _________. It was you who talked with me. While Derry was silent, Trish came forward and exclaimed with wide eyes. Seeing the time had passed 1 a.m., Trish had already considered the teenage boy who spoke with her wouldn't come as he said. Flush. But seeing he had really arrived, Trish spoke a little loudly, which drew others' looks. A small flush appeared on her cheeks. Sister, seriously? Chuckle. When Derry looked at his sister, whose face turned red, he shook his head with a teasing smirk on his face, trying to lighten the mood. After entering the hotel, Jojo started to explain who he was, why he could help them, and introduced them to the DMC Foundation, which he founded to solve supernatural cases. Cool, then can me and my sister leave now? Hearing the full explanation about DMC and what they do, Derry exclaimed in awe. For him, it was like some movie. Sigh. He could finally be relieved from the pursuit of the pervert who sniffed his underwear. Since now there was someone who could solve it, he could finally be free and leave with his sister without any worry. No. Derry, you can't leave. The creeper's target is you, so he will definitely come after you. Only he could save you. Listening to Derry, who wanted to leave, Jessie shook her head and immediately denied, finally breaking her silence. When explaining, her haunting eyes glimmered a little with hope when her gaze landed on Jojo, who was sitting beside her. Ring ring. While chatting with David and Dana and explaining to them, suddenly Jojo's mobile started to ring. Looking at the caller ID, it was Freya who was calling him, so Jojo immediately answered the call. Hello. Freya, yeah, I have arrived. Attending the call, Jojo went to the side and started chatting with Freya. Oh, we too arrived. Since it was not as severe as the pet cemetery case, I formed an 8-member squad. And a surprise for you. Giggle. Hearing that Jojo had arrived, Freya gave an update on their side and teased him with a little mystery in her voice. Vroom. This time, once again, the old truck in which the creeper goes past the hotel, but this time it slowed a little at the front of the hotel entrance and left. Underscore. Looking at the retreating truck, Jojo frowned because he couldn't feel any sense or malice from the truck. It was like there was no one present in the truck. Why am I unable to detect any sense or any life inside? Seeing he was unable to detect any sense or life from the truck made him feel a headache approaching. If creepers could really escape from under his radar, then something very complicated was going on with it. Creeper is using something to avoid my radar, or the one he really hunts isn't the original creeper. Then who is it? While gazing at the road where the old truck had disappeared, Jojo's mind buzzed with many questions, which he needed to find the answer to as soon as possible. If it's the latter, then dealing with the creeper will become harder if he cannot find the real location of the creeper. Even he was not sure about the real origin of the creeper, since in his previous life they never showed the creeper's origin story or how to deal with him clearly. Asterisk. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review in Power Stone. Chapter 113, Chapter 108, might be worth meeting. When Jojo was contemplating why he couldn't sense any sense from inside the truck that had just passed through the highway, his narrowed eyes reflected the crazy thoughts crossing his mind, which he soon shook off. That was the truck that was following us. Noticing Jojo still looking in the direction where the old truck had left, Derry broke the silence. Previously, David and Dana had not fully believed what Derry had told them when he pointed out the old truck passing through the highway. But after the forensic report and David's terrifying experience with the creeper when he tried to follow the old truck, the atmosphere became very heavy. Freya, be careful while coming through. Stay alert while arriving. Jojo said with a serious expression, warning Freya to stay cautious while traveling to the location of the rundown hotel via the highway, and then ended the call. Huff huff. David, succumbing to his panic, began to feel as though he couldn't breathe properly. Seeing this, Dana immediately tried to calm him down, reassuring him that he was safe here. Sigh. Looking at her superior, once known for his cold and calm demeanor whenever he handled tough cases, a trait that had earned him the respect of many colleagues, Dana felt a pang of sadness seeing him in such a state. You don't understand, Dana. That thing has wings on its back, and eats us humans like a late-night snack. Chuckle. Hearing his assistant deputy trying to calm him down, David let out a bitter chuckle, shaking his head. He told Dana she didn't understand the gravity of the situation they were in and revealed that the monster that attacked him had wings. Gulp. Sister, let's leave. Let them handle it from here. When Derry saw the serious expression on the police officer's face, he gulped involuntarily. The gruesome images of the stitched-together dead bodies he'd seen in the old church resurfaced in his mind, sending a shiver down his spine. Trish, who had been silently listening to everything happening, couldn't fully comprehend or believe the situation. However, she distinctly remembered the old woman mentioning that the killer who wasn't human was after her brother. Why is the killer after my brother? After some thought, Trish turned to Jojo, her voice laced with both fear and determination. Even though the situation seemed surreal, she wanted to know the full truth before deciding what to do. Looking at the state of the cop, David, only strengthened her resolve not to take any chances with her brother's safety. Cough. Well. Noticing her determined demeanor, Jojo asked her to take a seat. He began explaining why they were being targeted, who was after them, and what that thing truly was. This time, even David remained silent, eager to hear the explanation. He wanted to understand what kind of crazy things these siblings had done to provoke a demon to come after them as if they were their sworn enemies. With some thought, Jojo began to explain. When Derry and Trish noticed the creeper throwing its prey into the tunnel beneath the old church, they panicked and got caught in its attention. The creeper suspected the two might have seen something they shouldn't have, especially when it saw how quickly they fled. Jojo's tone turned serious as he continued. With its secret potentially compromised, it decided to follow them and tried to kill both of them in a hit-and-run attempt, partly to silence them, and partly for some extra snacks. He paused, sighing heavily. Sigh. But due to sheer luck, they escaped its initial attempts. The creeper, realizing it had fresh prey waiting back at the church, left them alone to devour what it had already caught. Jojo stopped for a moment, his gaze turning toward Derry with a complicated expression before continuing. This entire situation could have been avoided, if Derry had better control over his curiosity. Jojo's voice carried both frustration and resignation. Now the creeper is on your trail like a vengeful ghost. It had to destroy one of its favorite hideouts because someone couldn't resist breaking into the church and running off. Derry's luck was the only thing that saved him. He didn't trigger any of the traps the creeper had laid, except breaking the door. Jojo's expression darkened as he dropped the final revelation. The creeper isn't human. It's a demon that has lived for thousands of years, hunting humans every 23rd year for 23 days. And now, it's holding a grudge against you, Derry. He looked directly at him, his tone grave. It's locked onto you, and you just so happen to have perfectly healthy organs, prime cuts to its preferential taste. Hearing the full explanation, Trish, David, and Dana turned to Derry, their faces dark and incredulous. You're telling me this whole mess is because of you? Their accusing eyes bore into Derry, who squirmed under their collective gaze. Avoiding their eye contact, he muttered. Why are you guys looking at me like that? Derry. Trish hissed, her tone low but quickly escalating. How many times have I told you we should have never gone back to that church? And now, look at the mess you've dragged us into. Her voice rose with every word, her frustration palpable. Sigh. David, trying to ignore Trish's scolding, turned to Jojo, his expression weary. What's next? He asked, his voice carrying a faint hope for a solution to their predicament. David's question hung in the air, heavy with tension. He looked at Jojo, desperate for an answer. Is there any way to escape this thing? To avoid being killed? Chuckle. Jojo let out a small, awkward laugh, scratching the back of his head. Well, there's not a simple solution. He began cautiously. But for now, we're going to wait until my team arrives. I came here ahead of them to prevent any mishaps from happening while we set up. Jojo's casual demeanor contrasted sharply with the gravity of the situation, but his words carried a calm assurance. David frowned. Team? What kind of team? You'll see. Jojo replied, his tone cryptic but firm. "They're professionals, trust me. If anyone can help us out of this mess, it's them." The room fell silent again, the weight of Jojo's words settling on everyone. Trish crossed her arms, still fuming at Derry but focusing her frustration on their current predicament. Derry, meanwhile, looked more uncomfortable than ever, avoiding everyone's gaze. Dana broke the silence. "So, we just wait? That's your plan?" "For now, yes." Jojo replied calmly, leaning back slightly. "Anything else would risk drawing it to us sooner. The creeper's smart, too smart. We need to be ready before we make our move." The group exchanged uneasy glances, realizing they were trapped in a deadly waiting game. Freya's side. After arriving in Florida, Freya and her assembled team rented 2 cars from a local rental service. Guided by Sarah's directions, they began their journey toward the downed hotel where Jojo was currently stationed. The team consisted of a diverse group: Leah Clearwater and Jacob Black from the Quileute tribe, 3 Cullen family members, Alice, Rosalie, and Edward, who joined under pressure from Edward's family and girlfriend to decide on her transformation. And finally, the Mikaelson brothers, Elijah and Klaus, who decided to tag along after hearing of Freya's involvement in this supernatural mission. As the cars sped along the highway, Sarah kept them updated via phone, relaying the tense situation Jojo was facing. "You should consider joining the DMC, Elijah," Freya said casually, breaking the chatter in the car she shared with her brothers, Leah and Jacob. "Chuckle." Elijah raised an eyebrow, his lips curving into a small smile. "I appreciate the offer, Freya, but I already have my hands full with Klaus." Hearing this, Klaus rolled his eyes and huffed. "Oh, very funny," he muttered, though he made no effort to refute the claim. Elijah's words, while delivered in jest, held an underlying truth. Over the years, Klaus had been the source of countless headaches for his siblings, his volatile nature often testing their patience. Klaus sighed, turning his gaze out the window, letting the conversation move on without further argument. "Laugh, laugh." Freya chuckled at her brother's reaction. "Well, when you put it that way, it does make sense," she said, shaking her head. Though spoken lightly, Freya couldn't ignore the validity of Elijah's words. Klaus had indeed changed since the birth of Hope, his daughter, but his siblings remained cautious. His past instability had left deep scars, and they all feared he might relapse. Still, for now, Klaus seemed determined to stay on the right path, motivated by his desire to be a good father. The car fell into a brief silence, the hum of the engine the only sound as Freya's team pressed onward toward their destination, where the fate of Jojo and those with him awaited resolution. As Freya's team drove down the highway, they passed an old church surrounded by fire engines and police vehicles. Yellow tape cordoned off the area, barring unauthorized entry. Ambulances lined the roadside, their workers moving stretchers carrying deformed bodies in awkward positions, many of them stitched together in grotesque forms. "It seems like their bodies were somehow preserved," Elijah noted, his sharp eyes catching the disturbing details on a passing stretcher. The team, consisting of vampires, hybrids, witches, and shapeshifters, detected the stench of death that lingered in the air. It was overpowering. Unlike regular humans, they could discern much more in a single glance, yet even for them, this sight was unsettling. Realizing Jojo was still waiting for them at the downed hotel, they didn't linger long. They moved past the scene quickly, not wanting to attract unnecessary attention. After some time on the road, the team encountered a far more horrifying sight. A massacre stretched out before them. Police vehicles lay destroyed, torn apart as if by some monstrous force. The roads were slick with blood, scattered with severed body parts, hands, feet, even half of an old man's gnawed head. "Lube dub. _______. Dub lube." Amid the carnage, Alice's keen senses picked up on something. "Someone's still alive," she announced urgently. Leah and Jacob's ears perked up at the sound, confirming the faint heartbeat. "Yeah, I hear it too," Leah said, glancing at the others. "But don't rush out, Alice. We don't know what did this." The group paused, scanning the area for any immediate threats. After a brief conversation with Freya, they decided to investigate cautiously. Klaus, using his supernatural strength, flipped one of the overturned cars. Beneath it, they discovered two survivors. One was an old man, his body battered and his arm grotesquely broken. Beside him lay a young man, unconscious, his legs completely crushed and bleeding profusely. Save us!" the old man croaked weakly before succumbing to his injuries. Elijah crouched by the young man, who was on the brink of death. Without hesitation, he bit into his wrist, letting his blood drip into the young man's mouth before snapping his neck to begin the transformation process. As Elijah turned to the old man, Rosalie placed a hand on his shoulder, shaking her head. "He's already gone," she said softly. Klaus surveyed the bloody scene, his lips curling into a grin. "It seems we've got quite an artist on our hands," he remarked, the carnage reminding him of someone from his darker past. For a brief moment, Klaus's thoughts turned to his daughter, Hope. He silently thanked himself for not telling her about his visit to Freya in Forks, otherwise, she would have insisted on tagging along, no matter how much he protested. Still, Klaus's curiosity was piqued. The sheer brutality of the scene intrigued him. "Whoever did this," Kaluz mused in a low voice, "might be worth meeting." The chaos before him made him remember his old friend. ****. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review in Power Stone. Chapter 114, Chapter 109, Is This Even Your Real Body? While Klaus admired the grotesque scene before him, his intrigued smile made Freya roll her eyes. Turning her attention away from her brother, she focused on Leah and Jacob, who were diligently examining the remains for any trace of the culprit or a lead. After a thorough search lasting 15 minutes, the two shapeshifters returned to Freya with their findings. It seems like they were hunted down by a wild beast, judging by the condition of the bodies. Jacob began, his sharp eyes narrowing as he recounted what he'd observed. The group paused their activities, listening carefully as Jacob continued. "But, the teeth marks. They're unnervingly even, almost unnaturally so. And the bite force, it's incredibly strong. Strong enough to crush a skull in one clean bite." Leah nodded, her expression grim as she added. "The bite pattern doesn't match anything I've seen in the wild. Whatever this thing is, it's confident, too confident. Look at this scene. It didn't just attack people, it went after a police vehicle on a busy highway and wiped everyone out." Hearing their observations, Elijah folded his arms and frowned, speaking more to himself than anyone else. If it's capable of this, it must know how to evade Jojo's senses, either through cunning or some sort of protection. Freya sighed, nodding at Elijah's comment. "This creeper isn't just dangerous, it's clever. It's deliberately staying one step ahead of us." With no further useful clues to glean from the site, Freya ordered the team to clean up any traces of their presence to avoid raising suspicion. Once satisfied, they left the brutal scene behind and continued on their journey toward the downed hotel where Jojo awaited. As they drove, the eerie silence among the group was broken only by the low hum of the car engines. Each member was lost in their thoughts, knowing that whatever they were dealing with wasn't just a monster, it was something far more sinister. Half an hour later, inside the downed hotel, Jojo sat calmly, observing David and Dana. Dana diligently attended to David's injuries with the first aid kit found in the hotel. Jojo didn't intervene, as he was awaiting Freya and her team, knowing they could heal David properly and modify his memories to avoid any complications later. Meanwhile, Jesely was seated with Derry and Trish, recounting her strange connection to the creeper and how she knew it was targeting them. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. When Jesely revealed that she possessed the ability to see the future, the siblings froze, stunned by her admission. You mean, you can see the future? Derry stammered, his voice carrying both disbelief and unease. Jesely nodded solemnly. Her expression was serious but patient, as though she had been questioned about this many times before. Sister, don't tell me you believe her. Derry asked, turning to Trish with a skeptical look that practically screamed, this is insane. Jojo, who had been sipping from a can of Coke he'd grabbed from a vending machine, couldn't resist chiming in. With a teasing grin, he quipped. Didn't she believe your crazy claim about decades-old corpses being perfectly preserved in some creepy church basement? Derry opened his mouth to retort but quickly shut it, unable to counter the point. Jesely sighed, her shoulders sagging as if the weight of her visions pressed down on her. Believe it or not, kid, I can see the future not clearly, but I catch vague glimpses. It's never a complete picture, but it's enough to know what's coming. And let me tell you, all my efforts to change what I've seen have failed. Nothing I've done has altered what's to come. Her voice grew heavy with emotion, and dark circles under her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. Your ending, it's not good, kid. It's not what anyone would want to hear. But then, I saw him in a vision. She gestured vaguely toward Jojo. And in that version, you're safe. For the first time, there's hope. The room grew quiet as her words sank in. Derry's skeptical gaze faltered, replaced by a mixture of fear and hope. Trish, on the other hand, leaned forward, her expression determined. Then we stick with Jojo. Trish said firmly, her tone brooking no argument. Jojo raised an eyebrow, amused by her conviction but impressed by her resolve. He glanced at Jesely, his teasing demeanor giving way to a more serious expression. Well, I'm not one to leave people hanging. If there's a way to keep these two safe, I'll make sure it happens. For the first time in a while, Jesely managed a faint smile, though it was tinged with sadness. I hope so. I truly do. The tension in the air was palpable, and even the faint hum of the hotel lights seemed ominous. Outside, the sound of a car engine approached. Jojo stood, sensing the arrival of Freya and her team. Looks like the cavalry's here, he said, his voice breaking the silence. Let's hope we're ready for what's coming next. Jesely's lifeless eyes lit up with a glimmer of hope when Jojo mentioned his team. For the first time, she felt there might be answers to the question that had haunted her ever since her powers awakened. Jojo chuckled softly, breaking the tense atmosphere. What? What do you mean, failed? We can change the vision you saw, right? Derry's voice trembled, his wide eyes betraying his panic. His hands were clammy, and he gulped audibly, trying to process Jesely's words. Jesely shrugged her shoulders and gestured toward Jojo. Well, that depends on him. Derry turned his pale, trembling face toward Jojo, his legs threatening to give out from under him. His thoughts raced chaotically as if searching for a lifeline. Jojo, observing Derry's near breakdown, chuckled lightly, offering a sense of calm amidst the chaos. Don't worry, kid. Nothing will happen to you if you follow my instructions. And Mrs. Jesely, he added, turning to the older woman. There's someone on my team with the same ability as yours, maybe even stronger. You might get some useful advice from her. Jesely's eyebrows shot up in surprise. This was the first time she'd heard of anyone with powers similar to hers. The prospect of meeting someone who could understand her burden piqued her curiosity. Before she could respond, a sharp sound tore through the room. Swish! Shatter, shatter! The deafening sound of glass shattering cut through their conversation. Two shurikens spun through the air, glinting menacingly, aimed directly at Derry and David like harbingers of death. Down! Jojo's voice thundered as he yanked Derry down forcefully and flipped the heavy table in front of them, creating a makeshift barrier. Thud thud! Years of training kicked in as David and Dana dove to the floor, narrowly avoiding the deadly projectiles. The shurikens embedded themselves into the table, slicing cleanly through the dense wood as if it were butter. Crash! David let out a startled grunt as one shuriken struck the walkie-talkie on his shoulder. The shattered device absorbed most of the impact, saving him from a fatal injury, though the force pinned him against a nearby pillar. Sigh. Jojo glanced over and exhaled in relief. Down. Stay down. He commanded firmly, his voice leaving no room for argument. After confirming everyone's safety, he turned his sharp gaze toward Derry. Derry, listen to me. No matter what, do not make any impulsive decisions. You'll only make things worse. Jessie crouched in a corner beside the cops, her trembling hands clutching her coat. Despite the terror of the moment, she was struck by Jojo's calm under pressure. Where do you think you're going? Trish demanded, her voice low but laced with urgency as she noticed Jojo preparing to leave. You're alone. Didn't you say the creeper is strong? You can't fight it by yourself. Jojo turned, his expression unwavering but not unkind. And what? Leave everyone here vulnerable? That's not happening. The creeper isn't just strong, it's calculating. If I stay, it'll tear through this place to get to all of you. My job is to keep it occupied and far away until Freya and the team get here. Trish clenched her fists, her protective instincts kicking in. Then let us help. No. Jojo's voice was firm. Your best chance of survival is staying here, under cover, and following my instructions. I'll buy us time. Trust me. As he stepped toward the shattered windows, the air seemed heavier, charged with an unseen tension. The night outside was eerily quiet, as if the world itself were holding its breath. Jojo glanced back at the room. Stay down. Stay safe. And Derry, don't do anything stupid. And with that, Jojo slipped out into the night, his figure quickly swallowed by the darkness as he prepared to face the creeper head-on. Despite knowing Jojo for less than an hour, Jessie couldn't help but feel worried seeing him so willing to risk his life for her and the others. Chuckle. Jojo caught her expression and let out a light chuckle. Don't worry. I'm not weaker. Standing up, he strode forward confidently. His bright blue eyes flickered before turning a ghostly white, a manifestation of his analysis eye, a supernatural ability he had gained after defeating the demon at the pet cemetery. This unique power allowed Jojo to perceive and analyze supernatural elements in people, objects, and places, though he still hadn't fully grasped the extent of its capabilities. Activating the ability, Jojo scanned the area outside the hotel. The surrounding space appeared in hues of grey, except for the vibrant outline of two shurikens embedded in the walls, glowing with intense colors. His gaze locked onto the creeper. Oddly, unlike other living beings he had observed through the analysis eye, which appeared in radiant white, the creeper was an ominous blackish shadowy, hollow shell. The sight only reinforced Jojo's suspicion, the creeper was no ordinary predator. He turned back to the others and pointed to the shurikens. Take those. They're not just weapons, it seems they can hurt the creeper. Use them to defend yourselves if it comes to that. The others hesitated, but David and Dana quickly retrieved the shurikens. Their hands trembled as they gripped the weapons, trying to steady themselves. Outside the hotel, the creeper's predatory grin widened as it stared at Jojo, displaying its rows of jagged, razor-sharp teeth. Drool dripped from its gaping maw, the creature salivating at the sight of a healthy, strong human standing before it. Shriek! The creeper let out a deafening cry, a sound so chilling it sent waves of fear and panic through everyone inside the hotel. Jessie clutched her ears, trembling, while Derry and Trish stared wide-eyed at the monstrous figure outside. That's the demon. David stammered, pointing a shaky finger at the creeper. His voice quivered, thick with fear. None of them could muster words to respond. They were frozen in a mixture of horror and disbelief, their eyes darting nervously between Jojo's back and the creeper's menacing form. The creeper's dark, soulless eyes fixated entirely on Jojo. Its tongue darted out, licking its inky black lips hungrily, as though savoring the thought of devouring him. Jojo, unfazed by the creature's display, stepped forward. The creeper's grin faltered slightly, its instincts sensing something off about its prey. Then, without warning, puff! Flames erupted around Jojo, engulfing him in an infernal blaze. The others inside gasped in shock and fear, shielding their eyes from the sudden light. The fire spiraled upward, consuming Jojo's figure, and when it subsided, he was no longer the man they had known. Instead, standing in his place was the Ghost Rider, his fiery skull blazing in the darkness, chains clinking ominously as he moved. Jojo's voice echoed, distorted, and filled with rage. "I hate when someone looks at me like that." Growl. The Ghost Rider's fiery gaze locked onto the creeper, his skeletal form exuding an aura of pure dread. For the first time in its long life, the creeper faltered, taking an instinctive step back. Though it was a creature of the supernatural, something about the Ghost Rider sent chills down its spine. Jojo tilted his flaming skull curiously. Even in his Ghost Rider form, he couldn't sense the creeper's sins. That lack of moral corruption puzzled him, forcing him to reconsider the nature of the being before him. Shriek. The momentary shock faded, replaced by the creeper's feral instincts. It shrieked again, louder and more guttural than before. Its jaw split open, revealing rows of fangs far larger and more menacing than its teeth. The monstrous creature crouched low, its body coiled like a spring, ready to launch itself at Jojo. The hotel windows rattled as the creeper's shriek echoed through the night, an eerie challenge to the flaming specter before it. The battle between two supernatural predators was about to begin. As the creeper launched itself at the Ghost Rider with feral intensity, its claws outstretched and teeth gleaming, the skeletal figure stood unflinching. Thud! In a fluid motion, the Ghost Rider delivered a devastating kick to the creeper's chest, sending it flying backward like a ragdoll. The impact created a shockwave that stirred up a cloud of dust and debris. The creeper slammed into the ground, lying motionless for a moment as silence blanketed the area. The others watching from inside the hotel exchanged wide-eyed glances, their fear mingled with awe at the sight of Jojo's spectral form easily repelling the monstrous entity. A few moments later, the creeper stirred, slowly rising to its feet. Its chest bore a deep, scorched boot print from the Ghost Rider's fiery kick. The wound smoked and sizzled, a testament to the sheer power of the attack. Yet, the creeper's reaction was unnerving. Despite the evident pain, the creeper didn't waver. It didn't clutch its chest or even acknowledge the injury. Instead, its dark, soulless eyes fixated on the Ghost Rider with a singular, unrelenting focus. Jojo tilted his flaming skull slightly, intrigued by the creature's indifference to its own suffering. "Is this even your real body?" The Ghost Rider's distorted voice cut through the tension, laced with curiosity and menace. ___________. At those words, the creeper froze. Its predatory demeanor shifted, and for the first time, its wide, unblinking eyes betrayed something it hadn't displayed in centuries: fear. Its body trembled slightly as if it had been caught off guard, its earlier confidence replaced by uncertainty. The creeper emitted a guttural, low-pitched sound that reverberated through the air, a noise that seemed equal parts growl and unease. Goo 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 goo. The Ghost Rider's hollow sockets flared with bright flames as he took a step forward, his chains clinking ominously. A dry, amused laugh echoed from his flaming skull. Interesting. Raising his flaming hand, the Ghost Rider curled one skeletal finger, motioning for the creeper to come at him. The taunting gesture spoke volumes, daring the creeper to unleash everything it had. The creeper hesitated, a flicker of calculation in its gaze. Jojo could sense it was holding back, its movements cautious as though weighing its options. The Ghost Rider mused silently. "This thing, it's just a puppet. Its real body isn't here. That explains why it feels incomplete. Limited." Jojo's analysis only heightened his curiosity. For centuries, the creeper had terrorized and hunted without restraint, yet this was one of the rare times it was forced to face an adversary strong enough to provoke its full potential. Come on then! Show me what you've got! The Ghost Rider's challenge hung in the air like a thunderclap, the flames on his body roaring brighter as he prepared for the creeper's response. Inside the hotel, the others held their breath, watching as the two supernatural beings prepared for what promised to be an explosive confrontation. Asterisk. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review and Power Stone. Chapter 115, Chapter 110, You think you're a hunter, right? Inside Down Hotel. When Trish heard that Jojo was about to confront Creeper, who had arrived at their doorstep like a grim reaper, it made her shiver. She wanted to stop Jojo from confronting Creeper alone. But Jojo didn't hear her out completely. He cut her off with determination and confidence as he stood up. Smirk. Don't worry. He won't be able to defeat me, because I am the strongest. With a smirk on his face, Jojo started walking towards Creeper. Trish clearly noticed the confident smirk as Jojo declared dramatically and stepped out of the hotel. Later, Jojo instructed them to take the weapons, which seemed like shurikens that Creeper had just used to attack them, and use them to defend themselves against Creeper with its own weapons. Wait! But Trish was not convinced and was about to stop Jojo. She couldn't allow someone to sacrifice their life like this. However, she was stopped by Jessie, who pulled Trish by her hands. Sigh. Just watch. Creeper can't do anything to him. Because. Keeping a finger on her lips, Jessie silenced Trish and spoke in a mysterious tone, puzzling Trish. While the scene unfolded, Jojo, without any fear in his demeanor, stood before Creeper. Puff. With a puff, Jojo's head immediately flamed all of a sudden, shocking everyone present inside the hotel. Shit, he's burning alive. Derry, looking at the scene where Jojo's head suddenly caught fire, screamed with wide eyes and started to panic. We need. Seeing this scene, Trish was about to retort to Jessie, who had stopped her just a while ago, but her words were cut short by what she saw next. Growl. I hate when someone looks at me like that. Jojo, who seemed to be burning, spoke, but this time, his voice wasn't boyish. Instead, it was cracked and hoarse, sending chills down their spines. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. Then, the fight unfolded, leaving everyone in the hotel watching in pin-drop silence. Shudder. What, is he? Shudder. Looking at the two monsters fighting before him, David, while shuddering, broke the silence among them. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. Hearing David's words, Trish, Derry, Dana, and David's eyes landed on Jessie, who seemed to know more than they did. They all wanted answers from the old woman who had appeared alongside Jojo, who was now transformed into a flaming humanoid monster. Jojo sighed. When Jojo, as Ghost Rider, asked Creeper about his guess regarding whether the current body Creeper was using wasn't its real one, Creeper, who was just about to launch another attack, paused. For the first time, Ghost Rider saw Creeper's eyes widen in shock and panic clouding its gaze. Can you speak human language? Seeing that Creeper was still silent and only growling at him like a street dog, Ghost Rider became confused and asked if Creeper could speak. Underscore 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 underscore. Growl. Not answering Ghost Rider, Creeper's nails on its hands started to extend, becoming even sharper. Twitch twitch. With a twitching sound, two massive bat-like wings extended, with sharp fangs on each joint of the wings. Whoosh! With a jump from the ground, Creeper flew toward Ghost Rider, trying to use the advantage of flight. But just when its sharp claws were about to pierce through Ghost Rider's chest, Ghost Rider suddenly leaned sideways at an abnormal speed, which caused the attack to miss. Just as Creeper was about to fly past him, Ghost Rider grabbed the trench coat Creeper was wearing. Tear. This resulted in the trench coat being torn apart, and many weapons Creeper had kept with him fell to the ground. Ha 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 ha. How about trying again? Seeing Creeper's favorite trench coat in his hand, Ghost Rider laughed loudly as the coat turned to ashes due to the heat in his hands. Ray. With a loud roar, Creeper, seeing his favorite trench coat being burned right before his eyes and being taunted, roared angrily. It immediately picked up the sharp short swords that had fallen near him, gripping one in each hand, and prepared for its next attack. But before it could launch the next attack, this time, Ghost Rider didn't give Creeper any chance. He appeared before Creeper using his agility and stepped on its foot. Scream! Feeling the intense heat beneath Ghost Rider's boot, Creeper screamed in agony as it thrust both short swords, aiming at the center of Ghost Rider's chest for a fatal blow. But this time, Ghost Rider didn't avoid the attacks as he had done before. Instead, he took them head-on. Pierce! Both short swords pierced through his chest, causing the smirk that had previously vanished from Creeper's face because of Ghost Rider's taunts to return once again. Its reptilian eyes gleamed in excitement. Finally, the mysterious enemy who had appeared before it to stop its hunt was now seemingly being hunted down. But before it could even sigh, Ghost Rider's two fiery palms grabbed hold of Creeper's head, causing it to panic. Flap flap! Seeing it was caught, Creeper tried desperately to free itself from Ghost Rider's grasp. No matter how hard it struggled, Creeper couldn't even budge Ghost Rider. Dust swirled around them, stirred up by the wind created from the flapping wings on Creeper's back. Scream! Look into my eyes! Ignoring the swirling dust, Ghost Rider brought Creeper's face closer to his own, preparing to use his penance stare ability. Punch punch! As Ghost Rider expected, his theory was confirmed. The penance stare didn't work on Creeper because the body Creeper was currently using was not its real one. Creeper continued punching Ghost Rider's face desperately, trying to escape his fiery grasp. But instead of cracking Ghost Rider's skull, its fists began turning to ash, consumed by the hellfire. Boom! Ray! I am coming for you! Just you wait! With a fierce punch, Ghost Rider's flaming fist penetrated Creeper's hard skin and tore out a beating heart covered in black blood. Roaring ferociously, Ghost Rider held the heart aloft as Creeper collapsed to its knees before him. Vroom! At that moment, two cars sped down the highway and screeched to a halt behind Creeper, who was kneeling before Ghost Rider. The burn spread rapidly across Creeper's body from the gaping hole in its chest. Flesh began to char and fall off in chunks, turning to ash. Grump! Damn kid, you've already solved the case while we came all the way here just to go back. Callus grumbled, stepping out of the car and standing before Ghost Rider. Hee. It's not its original body, Callus. Just a puppet body it's controlling. With a low chuckle, Ghost Rider shook his head, explaining that the body before them wasn't Creeper's true form. Fuck! I've never seen such a handsome face. I need to puke. Smirking, Callus glanced at Creeper's face, its jaw unhinged, long fangs visible, and teased it with mock disgust. What is he? Is he a demon, like before? Analyzing the situation, Elijah appeared beside Callus, his tone serious as he examined Creeper's fallen form. This pungent smell. Puke. Leah, stepping out of the car along with Freya, Alice, and Rosalie, immediately doubled over and vomited onto the ground. Sorry. Feeling everyone's gaze on her, Leah's face turned bright red with embarrassment as she apologized for her unsteady behavior. Don't worry, here, some water. Without waiting for Leah to finish her apology, Alice grabbed the water bottle Leah had left on the dashboard and handed it to her with concern. ________. Thanks. After a slight pause, Leah accepted the bottle from Alice, which made the pixie visibly happy. Sigh. Snort. You think you're a hunter, right? Then let it be so. But this time, I will be the one hunting you. Run. Run. Wherever you want. Looking at the team that had gathered, Ghost Rider picked up the axe Creeper had been carrying during its hunt. Swinging it a few times to test its balance, Ghost Rider nodded in satisfaction. Hellfire spread along the blade, transforming it into a weapon of molten death. Good crafting. I'll take it. Leaving those last words for Creeper, Ghost Rider swung the fiery axe, slicing off Creeper's head. The decapitated body burned furiously, turning to ash as it crumbled to the ground. Asterisk. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review in Power Stone. Chapter 116, Chapter 111, Creeper's New Body. After Ghost Rider sliced off the head from Creeper's puppet body with a single clean strike, the decapitated body burned furiously and crumbled into ashes on the ground. Puff. With a faint puff, black smoke rose from Jojo's skull, signaling that the hellfire had been extinguished. He had transformed back from the spirit of vengeance into his human form. As Jojo returned to normal, Rosalie, standing beside him, rushed forward and wrapped her arms around him. She planted a quick peck on his lips. Not to be outdone, Alice giggled and jumped on him, hugging his neck tightly before giving him a small kiss. This time, however, the kiss lingered a little longer. Snort. Noticing her sister's clear intentions, Rosalie snorted in annoyance, folding her arms across her chest. Meanwhile, Freya, who had been quietly examining the weapons that had fallen from Creeper's trench coat torn during the fight, remained engrossed in her task. Did you find anything useful? Noticing her focused expression, Jojo moved beside her. His gaze fell on the shurikens she was inspecting with narrowed eyes. They're made of human skin used as leather, and the edges are crafted from bones razor sharp. Freya's voice was steady but tinged with disgust. As she ran her finger along the blade's edge to test its sharpness, the weapon pierced her skin effortlessly, drawing a thin line of blood. Chime. The sudden chime of the hotel door opening pulled their attention toward the entrance. From the doorway, Trish stepped through, followed closely by Derry, Jesely, Dana, and David, who were still clearly panicking. His wide eyes darted around nervously as if to confirm whether Creeper was truly dead this time. Even though the fight was finished, the group remained tense, their gazes fixed on Jojo. Moments ago, he had transformed into a flaming humanoid monster and defeated the Creeper, leaving it with no chance. Ahem. Gathering her courage, Trish deliberately coughed to break the heavy silence. Who are you? Stepping forward, she managed to ask the question on everyone's mind. I'm someone who punishes sinners. The Creeper and its kind, they're part of the DMC I explained earlier. Jojo's answer was vague, his voice steady, but it left no room for doubt. Sigh. Then, that means you've dealt with the Creeper, right? Trish let out a relieved sigh as she glanced toward the ashes where Jojo had decapitated the Creeper moments earlier. Underscore. Why should I be afraid of him? Didn't he save us from the demon? Trish shook her head as she reassured herself. She slowly began to chat with Jojo, still wary but gaining confidence. Sigh. No. Unfortunately, that wasn't the Creeper's real body. Jojo's voice was grim as he ran a hand through his hair, shaking his head. To end the Creeper once and for all, we need to find its original body and destroy it completely. His words shattered the fragile calm. Underscore. underscore 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 underscore. The faint relief on Derry's and the officers' faces evaporated in an instant. Shiver. Then, will it come back? David's voice trembled, his wide eyes darting nervously around the area as if expecting the creeper to strike from the shadows. Ma'am, where's the backup you mentioned? Turning abruptly toward Dana, Derry's voice cracked, his fear evident. They had been waiting for backup all this time, backup that had yet to arrive. The sheriff, Dan, had promised to send reinforcements as soon as possible, but there was still no sign of them. Underscore 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 underscore. Dana sighed, the weight of uncertainty clear in her expression. To be honest, kid, even I don't know. Her shoulders slumped slightly as she pulled the walkie-talkie closer to her mouth. Cree. Pressing the button again, Dana repeated her request for reinforcements. Static crackled back at her until a faint voice responded, confirming the backup had been dispatched and was on its way. But the uncertainty remained. Due to the unsettling situation, Dana hesitated, wanting to request additional backup. But before she could, Jojo subtly gestured for her not to. Miss Dana, you need to take him to the hospital. We'll handle the creeper. It's not a good idea to involve more normal humans, people who have no idea what they're going to face if they encounter it. Dana frowned, clearly puzzled, but Freya stepped closer, offering a brief explanation. Let's head inside. Noticing David's growing panic and Dana's confusion, Jojo gestured for everyone to re-enter the down hotel, where the siblings and cops had previously stayed. Ambulance. Loud sirens echoed through the long, desolate highway as a line of ambulances sped away from the smoldering ruins of the old, burned-down church. The church set ablaze by the culprit to destroy evidence now stood silent, a charred reminder of horrors past. Inside one of the ambulances, two stretchers lay side by side, each holding a dead body wrapped in sealed yellow plastic covers. Suddenly, shake shake. The body on one of the stretchers trembled. At first, the movement was faint. Then, violently. Muffle. The plastic stretched taut as something inside struggled. A muffled groan echoed through the confined space. Tear. A pale, burned hand ripped through the plastic cover, its charred skin flaking off like dry ash. The hand reached outward, clawing for freedom. Moments later, the body emerged, a lean, skeletal man with sickly pale skin. Both his eyes and mouth were grotesquely stitched shut. The stitching appeared crude, as though done with strands of coarse human hair. The figure swayed unsteadily as it slowly pushed itself upright from the stretcher. His movements were sluggish, like something waking from a deep, unnatural slumber. He lifted his pale, bony hands to his face. The flesh of his hands bulged grotesquely, his fingertips cracking as sharp, dark claws extended like talons. Snib. The man pressed the razor-sharp tips of his claws against his tightly stitched eyelids. Slowly, carefully, he sliced through the stitches. A sickening sound accompanied the tearing skin splitting, hair snapping apart. The eyes that opened beneath were not human. They were reptilian, glowing faintly as they adjusted to the dim interior of the ambulance. They were the same eyes as the creepers, the same monster Jojo had fought and destroyed mere moments ago. The creeper had returned, now possessing a new puppet body. Tear. The creature's face contorted as it sliced through the stitches, holding its mouth shut. The gaping mouth opened wide, rows of jagged teeth lining the twisted grin. Its expression was feral, predatory. Suddenly, the new puppet body began to change. The man's height surged upward, bones audibly cracking as his body expanded, matching the creeper's towering size. His pale, decaying skin tightened and bulged unnaturally, as though something monstrous were growing beneath the surface. On his back, the flesh stretched taut. Rib. With a grotesque tearing sound, two massive wings burst from the skin, slick and covered in a foul, slimy substance. They extended outward, their joints sharp as blades, dripping viscous fluid onto the floor. The transformation was almost complete. With a single, powerful motion, the creeper shed its old skin. The discarded husk fell to the floor like a dead cocoon, revealing its new, monstrous form stronger, sharper, and more menacing than before. The creeper's wings unfurled fully, casting long, sinister shadows across the ambulance walls. Its reptilian eyes glowed with newfound malice, locking onto the world beyond as it let out a low, guttural growl. It was ready to hunt again. Even though the creeper had fully possessed this new puppet body, it appeared weaker and sluggish. The form was a hollow shell, devoid of internal organs or proper structure. It was merely the outer skin. The creeper would have to start from scratch once more, hunting to rebuild itself piece by piece. Frown. Sniff sniff. The creeper frowned, raising its nose to the air, sniffing deeply. Its reptilian nostrils flared as it desperately searched for suitable prey, anything to consume and restore its decaying state. Growl. A guttural growl escaped its throat, low and menacing. Without hesitation, the creeper turned toward the ambulance doors, gripping them tightly. Bang! With an inhuman strength, it tore the doors open, the metal groaning in protest as they flung outward. What the? The driver and his assistant, in the ambulance, following close behind, watched the surreal scene unfold before their eyes. Both men froze, their expressions shifting to shock and disbelief as they saw the impossible. Flap flap! From the open ambulance, the creeper unfurled its massive wings. In a single, swift movement, it launched itself into the night sky, its silhouette briefly illuminated by the flashing emergency lights. The wings beat powerfully as the creature vanished into the darkness, leaving behind only the sound of rushing air. Nick, did we see that right? The driver's voice broke the heavy silence, his hands trembling against the steering wheel. He stared at the still-moving ambulance doors, unable to look away. I think I saw a monster. The assistant stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. His eyes remained fixed on the gaping doors, as though the creeper might reappear at any moment. Both men turned to look at each other, their faces pale. In the silent cab, they could see the panic reflected in each other's eyes. Gulp. Neither spoke another word as the realization crept over them, whatever they had seen was not human. Asterisk. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review in Power Stone. Chapter 117, Chapter 112, Braddon Family. Pain of 23 years. Down Hotel. Inside the dimly lit Down Hotel, Jojo, Freya, Alice, Rosalie, Klaus, Elijah, Jacob, and Leah sat around a table that had been dragged to the center for a discussion. Trish and Derry sat quietly at a desk behind Jojo, observing the conversation without interrupting. If his body is fake, then where is his real body? Trish's voice broke the silence, her tone edged with concern. She glanced between Jojo and the others, waiting for answers. Jojo leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful as he recounted his findings. He explained how the creeper's puppet body worked and why his penance stare had been ineffective. Sigh. Yet. I don't know where the original body is. Jojo admitted, shaking his head. But there has to be a bigger reason behind why it hunts humans every 23 years, and only for 23 days. Chuckle. Well, isn't it obvious? He hunts because he's hungry. Klaus quipped, a mischievous glint in his eye. His casual remark earned a few nods from the group. There were other supernatural beings like vampires who needed to feed on something to survive. It wasn't an unfamiliar concept. Cough. Maybe it's a punishment. The soft voice came from Leah, who had been sitting silently at the edge of the group. She raised her hand slightly, clearing her throat to gain their attention. Everyone turned to look at her, and her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Leah wasn't used to speaking in front of the core team of the DMC, especially Jojo. Despite joining the Demon Management Corps voluntarily to work under Jojo, whom she admired deeply, she'd spent the past 2 years on the sidelines, unable to prove herself. When she heard Jojo was forming a team to handle a Tier Level 4 supernatural case, she had jumped at the chance. Still, the weight of being part of such a high-stakes mission wasn't lost on her. She continued, albeit a bit awkwardly. I mean, maybe the creeper is cursed, forced to do this every 23 years as some kind of penance. The room fell silent for a moment as the group considered her words. Leah had immediately joined the team after hearing about the mission from Freya, whom she worked under as an assistant. Now, as she voiced her perspective in a room filled with seasoned hunters and people from outside her pack, she felt a wave of awkwardness. Her gaze darted nervously between the faces of the group, unsure of how her comment would be received. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. The room fell silent as everyone processed Leah's suggestion that the creeper's hunt might be a punishment inflicted upon it by someone or something. Interesting, a very interesting perspective. Freya finally said, breaking the silence. Her raised eyebrow and thoughtful expression showed she was impressed. Leah blinked, surprised by the compliment, and gave a hesitant smile. I thought so too. Jojo added, nodding. He offered Leah a small smile, which eased some of her nerves. That possibility crossed my mind as well. Jojo had been considering the same theory, that the creeper's cyclical hunt was tied to some mysterious punishment. Leah's insight validated his suspicions, and it seemed to resonate with the others too. The group spent the next half hour discussing this new perspective, diving into theories and potential leads. By the end of the meeting, they reached a consensus on their next steps. They decided to resume their search for the creeper at dawn. Daylight would bring increased activity on the highway, forcing the creeper into more predictable patterns and limiting its movements. As the meeting adjourned, the tension in the room eased slightly. Leah lingered near Freya, still feeling out of place among the more experienced members, but her small contribution had earned her some respect and a boost of confidence she sorely needed. The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight crept over the horizon, the hotel owner and his daughter arrived earlier than usual. The tension was evident in their steps. They had been sent away the previous night by the 2 cops, Dana and David, and had spent the night worrying about their hotel. The little they gathered from their brief conversation with the officers suggested that serious trouble had unfolded. Somehow, their modest hotel had become the epicenter of it all. While they were concerned about the safety of the kids who seemed to be the target of some deranged individual, their primary worry was the condition of the hotel, their sole source of income and livelihood. Chime. The doorbell jingled softly as they stepped inside. What greeted them was a surprising sight, a group of strangers actively chatting with each other, filling the quiet morning air with energy. The hotel owner frowned, confused. Who are you guys? He asked, his voice tinged with both curiosity and concern. A young woman stepped forward. It was Trish. They're the ones who came to help us. She explained, her tone calm and reassuring, easing some of the tension. The hotel owner's daughter, visibly more anxious, looked around and hesitated before asking. What about the 2 cops? Dana and David. Rosalie, who had been near the door, overheard the question. She turned to the pair and answered with a reassuring tone. They went to the hospital. Don't worry. We'll be leaving this place soon. With that, the group began to file out of the hotel, their movements purposeful. Derry and Trish followed closely, leaving the hotel owner and his daughter standing in the lobby, bewildered yet relieved that the strange ordeal seemed to be coming to an end. Nearby village. Under the shadow of a withered tree, an old woman stood silently, her frail figure outlined by the golden hues of the rising sun. The tree, barren and lifeless, stood in stark contrast to the lush greenery surrounding it. Not a single leaf adorned its twisted branches, as if it had been cursed to stand as a grim sentinel for decades. The woman, likely in her late 60s or early 70s, carried the posture of someone weathered by both physical labor and emotional trials. Her face bore the lines of countless hardships, each wrinkle a testament to a life lived with resilience. Her hair, grey and wispy, was tied back into a loose bun that betrayed her practical and modest nature. She wore a simple rural outfit, a button-up shirt paired with a plain cardigan, functional and unpretentious, reflecting her humble life. This was Galen Brandon. Crow crow. The cawing of crows overhead punctuated the stillness, drawing her gaze skyward. She watched as the birds soared across the morning sky, their black forms cutting through the golden expanse. Her expression was distant, her thoughts far away. Memories of her last encounter with her son surfaced, unbidden. The pain of his loss felt as sharp now as it had on the day she lost him. Underscore. She murmured under her breath, her voice trembling with an emotion she couldn't quite name. Regret? Anguish? Or perhaps, the faint hope of understanding something she had never been able to grasp. The wind rustled softly around her, carrying whispers of the past and a sense of foreboding, as if the lifeless tree under which she stood held secrets yet to be revealed. Flashback. 23 years ago. The night was eerily quiet, save for the sound of a shovel striking soil. Galen Brandon stood under the same lifeless tree where she now stood in the present, her breath visible in the cold night air. Before her, her son Kenny Brandon worked feverishly, shoveling dirt to fill a freshly dug hole. His movements were frantic, his face pale under the moonlight, and his eyes darted around as if expecting something or someone to appear at any moment. Kenny. Galen's voice trembled as she stepped closer, fear and confusion swirling within her. Why are you doing this? Why, Kenny? It hurts too much, seeing you like this. Kenny froze at her words, his grip on the shovel tightening. His shoulders hunched as he stared at the ground, refusing to meet her eyes. Listen! He suddenly shouted, his voice echoing through the stillness of the night. Galen flinched, taking a step back. The silence that followed was oppressive, the air heavy with unspoken truths. Kenny exhaled sharply, trying to compose himself. His shoulders sagged as if the weight of his actions pressed down on him. Sigh. Mom, just listen, okay? His voice was quieter now, but his words carried an urgency that sent chills down Galen's spine. Time's up. It's coming back. Just as I said it would. His narrowed eyes glinted with fear and determination. He shoved the last bit of soil over the hole and patted it down with trembling hands. What are you talking about? Why, Kenny? Galen's voice cracked as she stepped closer, her maternal instinct warring with the terror Kenny's demeanor inspired. Kenny's face twisted in anguish. His eyes finally met hers, and she saw it a terrible secret, a truth so horrifying that it had driven her son to the brink of madness. It doesn't matter. He said bitterly, his voice breaking. He gave her a smile, a weak, pained thing, and turned his back to her. Mom, go home. You can't, you shouldn't know. He whispered the last part, almost to himself, before throwing the shovel over his shoulder and walking into the darkness, leaving Galen standing alone under the gnarled tree. Flashback ends. Galen blinked, her mind returning to the present. The golden light of dawn filtered through the trees, but her heart felt as cold and heavy as it had that night. Why, Kenny? She whispered to herself, her voice barely audible over the morning breeze. She stared down at the ground beneath the tree, as if hoping the answers were buried there alongside whatever her son had hidden. Sob, sob. Galen knelt under the lifeless tree, her frail frame trembling with each heartbroken sob. Her hands dug into the dirt, her nails scraping against the cold ground as she whispered her son's name. Kenny. Kenny. Her voice cracked, carrying a pain that had festered for 23 long years. The memories of that night and her son's ominous warnings played on repeat in her mind. Recently, they had become harder to ignore, his voice haunting her dreams, urging her to protect Addison. Take her somewhere safe. The voice echoed in her mind. Before they come. The tone was desperate, filled with dread. Galen didn't need to ask who they were, she could feel the malevolence creeping closer. Creak. The old farmhouse door swung open, its hinges groaning against the still morning air. A young girl, barely 18, stepped out onto the wooden porch. Addison Brandon, her light brown hair catching the early rays of the sun, looked toward her grandmother with growing concern. "Grandma!" Addison called softly, her voice hesitant. She descended the creaking steps barefoot, the dewy grass cool against her feet. Addison's face reflected both worry and weariness, the weight of her unusual life etched into her features. Her grandmother's strange behavior had only escalated over the years. Talking to herself, retreating from the world, and now this crying under the dead tree at sunrise. Asterisk. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review in Power Stone. Chapter 118, Chapter 113, Let's Sell the Rocket. Addison glanced toward the horizon, where golden light spilled over the distant hills, and then back at Galen. "What's wrong?" she asked, kneeling beside her. Galen didn't answer immediately. Her shoulders shook as her tears soaked into the earth beneath her. Addison hesitated before reaching out, resting a comforting hand on her grandmother's arm. Life on the farm had been lonely. Ever since the accident that took her parents' lives when she was just a baby, it had always been just her and Galen. The townsfolk whispered behind their backs, calling Galen unstable, and Addison, by association, strange. Her friends, what little she had, kept their distance. It wasn't easy being the girl with the crazy grandma. Finally, Galen lifted her tear-streaked face to meet Addison's worried gaze. Her eyes were red, her voice hoarse. "You have to leave, Addison," she whispered, gripping her granddaughter's hand with surprising strength. Addison blinked in confusion. "Leave? Why? What's going on?" Galen looked over her shoulder, as if expecting something or someone to emerge from the shadows of the barn. She pulled Addison closer, lowering her voice to a trembling whisper. "He warned me," she said. "Your father, he comes to me in my dreams. He says we're in danger." "That you're in danger?" Addison stiffened. This wasn't the first time her grandmother had spoken of her father's warnings, but the urgency in her tone was new, raw. "Grandma, it's just dreams," Addison said gently, though unease crept into her voice. "You've been stressed. That's all." Jojo sighed. When Jojo and others left the Down Hotel, he had already informed Dana about it and asked her to keep the cops' patrol as minimal as possible for the following 3 days. Because according to Jesely, the creeper, who has awakened after 23 years of slumber, is on the brink of his last few days before his hunting period ends. Only 3 days are left before the creeper once again goes into a deep sleep after completing 23 days of his hunting cycle. It will be nearly impossible for Jojo to track him down if there is no movement from this end. When Jojo requested Dana to minimize the cops' patrol in the area and block the entry of the highway on both sides in order to stop any new people from entering the hunting ground of the creeper. According to Sarah, Jojo's AI assistant, there were a total of 6 small towns present in the given radius around the highway. And they were mostly covered by forest and barren land. It's been a day since the search for the creeper began and is going on in full swing, but until now, there has been no single lead on the creeper so they could get near his whereabouts. At that time, after Jojo faced the creeper at the entrance of the Down Hotel and defeated him, they were chatting with the reinforcements when he received the news about the creeper appearing from one of the ambulances that carried the remains of the victims which it had left behind at the old church. When the cops looked inside, one of the bodies had gone missing, which solidified Jojo's assumption that the creeper was able to control others' dead bodies as its puppet bodies. Since David was injured and admitted to the hospital for treatment, Dana, who was second in command, took charge. When the cars in which Jojo and others were traveling came to the outskirts of one of the villages, suddenly Jojo felt a huge presence of sin from the direction of the village. Creak. What happened, Jojo? Did you sense something? Seeing Jojo's reaction while looking in the direction of the small village they were about to pass, Freya, who was driving the car, stopped and asked him. She knew Jojo had sensed something by his reaction. Yet, I feel a huge amount of sin from this direction. Hearing Freya's question, Jojo nodded his head without hiding anything and looked in that direction with narrowed eyes. Could it be the creeper's real body? Leah spoke, looking in the same direction with clear interest. This was the first time she was witnessing a level 4 case. Blank snap. No, but it is something related to it. Suddenly, Alice used her ability and saw a vision where Galen was warning her granddaughter about the danger they were about to face. After a few seconds, she snapped out of the vision and started to explain to the others what she had seen in her vision. Sigh. Then what are we waiting for? Hearing Alice, Rosalie rolled her eyes since she was sitting in the back seat while Freya and Jojo were in the front. With a nod, Freya turned the car toward the direction of the village while Klaus and the others closely followed behind them in another car. When they entered the town, Jojo shook his head and asked Freya to move even deeper to where he could feel the sins. When they were at the outskirts where a farmhouse was present, built quite far from the rest of the houses in the town. That's the tree I saw in the vision. When Alice noticed the dead tree on the side of the farmhouse, she pointed at it and informed Jojo and the others. Gailey's farmhouse. After taking her grandmother back to the farmhouse and making her lie on her bed, Addison went back to her room to sleep since it was early morning but was interrupted by the alarm. Sigh. With a defeated sigh, Addison got up and went to do her regular routine. After a good short sleep, Addison went to the horse stable where their family horse was kept to take care of its needs since it was her daily routine. Creak. With some effort, Addison finally pushed open the stable door. Since it was an old one, the door seemed to be a little stuck sometimes when opening. Snort Winnie. Inside the horse stable, it was a short one that could only accommodate 2 horses, but currently, there was only one white horse present. Good morning, handsome. Hey, are you ready? Entering the stable, Addison greeted the white horse with a smile and stroked it. Winnie Winnie. Hearing Addison and feeling her hands stroking its mane, the horse released a contented whinny and shook its head. Sigh. Come on, let's go to Grandma. I'm not doing this alone. When she turned around and saw the corner of the stable, which seemed to be empty, she let out a defeated sigh, took the reins, put them around the horse's neck, and started taking it out of the stable. After putting the reins on the horse, Addison mounted it and moved in the direction of the farm where she would usually find her grandma. When she arrived, she saw her grandma Galen sitting on the tractor truck, looking at the sky, seemingly in a daze. Even though Addison had not openly told her opinion on the weird behavior of her grandmother before her, she had started viewing her grandma from their perspective. Thud thud. Grandma, hey, Grandma, are you okay? Are you taking the truck to the town? Seeing this, Addison went toward her grandma and asked what she intended to do since she was sitting in the driver's seat of the tractor before her. Who is going to pay for it? Hearing Addison's voice, Galen snapped out of her thoughts, calmly turned to look at her granddaughter, and spoke, eyeing the white horse. We could get some credits at Hooks, he called again. When Addison heard Galen's question, she became silent for a second and spoke in a low tone, already expecting an answer from her grandmother and trying to find a reason. Sigh. We owe them more than we could pay. But before Addison could finish her sentence, Galen shook her head and interjected with a defeated sigh, informing her that they had already owed Hooks more than they could pay. Cal did say it, he. Hearing Galen's words, Addison became silent. Seeing Addison was silent, Galen continued the conversation. Addie. No. Grandma, I already told you we are not selling Rocket, Grandma. Selling him would feel like giving away my own child. Seeing her grandma once again wanted to consult regarding selling their horse Rocket, since they couldn't afford to keep it and maintain it any longer due to owing Hooks more than they could repay. Honk vroom! Honk vroom! Their conversation was interrupted by the horn sound from two cars which seemed to have arrived at the entrance of their farmhouse. From inside, many people stepped out of it, which aroused Addison's curiosity. Because most of the town members avoid coming to their farm due to the reputation of her grandma. But now, seeing there was a group of people who seemed to be from outside the local area, Addison wondered who they were. Asterisk. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review in Power Stone. Chapter 119, Chapter 114, Creeper's Buried Hand. Even though Addison was very curious about why these people had visited their farmhouse, it puzzled her even more because it was a well-known fact that only a few people, including her close friend, ever came by. Her farmhouse was nearly a rundown one, teetering on the brink of closure, with the threat of being sold off by debt collectors or the bank looming over them. Addison narrowed her eyes, carefully observing the unfamiliar group stepping out of their vehicles. The tension in her shoulders eased slightly when she noticed they didn't appear hostile, though their sudden presence was undeniably strange. Her grandmother, Galen, looked equally perplexed as she stepped down from the tractor, her gaze fixed on the approaching strangers. Jojo led the group, his confident stride and long dark coat setting him apart, exuding an air of mystery that only deepened Addison's curiosity. Beside him, Freya kept a watchful eye on their surroundings, her posture alert, while Alice followed close behind, her gaze flitting around the farm with evident curiosity, taking in the dilapidated barn and overgrown fields. Thud thud! Thud thud! The sound of boots on the gravel mixed with the occasional snort from Addison's horse, Rocket. Stay here, Rocket! Addison murmured softly, patting the horse's neck before dismounting. She tied his reins to a nearby post, giving the animal one last reassuring stroke before walking toward the approaching group. Grandma! Addison called quietly as she neared Galen, who stood at the tractor, her weathered hands gripping its edge. Do you know them? Galen shook her head, her eyes never leaving Jojo and his companions. No, Addie. She replied in a low tone. But they don't look like they're here for small talk. Even though Addison had suspected this, she wanted confirmation. If they were acquaintances of her grandmother, she didn't want to risk offending them or causing a misunderstanding. Jojo came to a halt a few paces away from the tractor, his sharp eyes scanning the expanse of the farm. His gaze lingered on the weathered house, the barn, and finally the ground beneath their feet, as if he could feel the echoes of something buried there. Creak! The rusty gate groaned faintly as the wind nudged it, breaking the silence. Jojo's expression tightened momentarily, as though sensing an unseen presence. Good morning! Jojo greeted, his voice calm, his smile gentle but deliberate, offering a sense of ease despite the tension lingering in the air. Addison hesitated, startled by the sudden warmth in his voice and demeanor. Except for her friend Buddy Hooks, no one had spoken to her with such friendliness, least of all someone as striking as Jojo. Good morning, can I know who you guys are? Addison asked, her words slightly rushed. She felt a blush creeping up her cheeks, unaccustomed to someone like him paying her any attention. Hearing Addison's question, Jojo gave a slight nod, his face turning serious. His eyes shifted past Addison to Galen, who still sat at the tractor, her gaze fixed on them with a cautious edge. Jojo spoke calmly, but his words carried weight. We're here about something important. I believe you might have information that can help us. Galen's eyes narrowed slightly, her mind racing. Could it be? No, it can't be that. She thought to herself, a brief flicker of concern crossing her face before she masked it with a defensive posture. Crossing her arms tightly, she stood straighter and replied. Information? About what? We're just farmers out here. Nothing more. Her tone was firm, but there was a slight tremor beneath the surface enough for Jojo to notice. Alice stepped forward, her approach softer, her tone more reassuring. "Ma'am, you might not know this, but you're in danger. Please, listen to us." Despite Alice's measured voice, Galen could sense the urgency in her words. Her expression darkened, the weight of those warnings pressing down on her. "Danger? What do you mean, danger?" Galen's voice rose sharply as her defensive demeanor cracked. She turned to Addison, her voice taut with fear. "Addison, step back." Confused but obedient, Addison retreated a few steps, her wide eyes darting between her grandmother and the strangers. "Don't panic, ma'am," Jojo interjected, holding up a hand to calm her. "We're not here to harm you or your granddaughter. Quite the opposite, we're here to help. To protect you from the danger that's approaching." Galen's wariness didn't ease, but she paused long enough to let Freya step forward. Freya's tone was calm, though it carried the confidence of someone who'd done this before. "We're from DMC, the Department of Metaphysical Containment," Freya began. "We solve supernatural cases. We've been tracking something dangerous, and its trail led us here. It's a creature known as the Creeper." At the mention of the name, Galen's breath hitched. Her arms fell to her sides as her face drained of color. Leah, standing beside Freya, quickly added, "We're not here to alarm you. But we believe this creature might have some connection to your farm or your family. Anything you can tell us could help us stop it." Galen's wide eyes betrayed her inner turmoil. Though her son had never told her what hunted him, the fragmented memories of his frantic words, the events surrounding his death, and the forewarning of something unnatural all pointed to one thing. "The Creeper," she whispered, her voice shaking. "It's real, then?" Jojo nodded, his voice steady. "It's very real, ma'am. And we need your help to stop it before it strikes again." After hearing Jojo, Galen also finished her confession. The room fell into a heavy silence. Addison's wide eyes filled with disbelief as her mind raced to process what her grandmother had just revealed. The words "eaten away by a demon" echoed relentlessly in her thoughts. "Grandma, what do you mean by that?" Addison's voice trembled, barely above a whisper. Galen looked away, her hands gripping the edge of her chair tightly. Her lips quivered as she searched for the strength to continue. "I'm sorry, Addison," she said with a sigh that carried years of guilt and pain. "I didn't tell you because I wanted to protect you. I thought if you didn't know, you wouldn't be drawn into any danger. But now, with these people here, I see there's no avoiding it anymore." Addison's heart ached. The happy memories of her parents, their laughter, their warmth played in her mind like fleeting images on a broken reel. And now, the revelation that something so monstrous had taken them filled her with a sense of helplessness. "Why didn't you tell me before?" she asked, her voice tinged with both sorrow and frustration. Galen sighed again, leaning back in her chair, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Because knowing wouldn't have brought them back. And I didn't want to burden you with something so horrifying." Jojo, who had been standing quietly, finally spoke up. His tone was firm yet understanding. "Ms. Galen, I know it's painful, but the more we know about your son and what he left behind, the better chance we have of stopping the Creeper. If there's anything at all that might help us, please tell us." Galen hesitated, her gaze drifting to Addison. Seeing the determination in her granddaughter's eyes gave her the courage to continue. 23 years ago," she began, her voice steadying. "My son, Kenny, came here in a state of panic. He told me he'd buried something on this farm. He wouldn't tell me what it was, just that it was dangerous. The next day, he and his wife were gone." She swallowed hard. "I searched for years, tried to find out what really happened. That's when I met Sheriff Dan Tashtigo. He was the first to tell me about the Creeper. He believed it was connected to Kenny's death. The group exchanged glances, their expressions grim. What exactly did Sheriff Tashtigo say about the creeper? Freya asked gently. That it wasn't just a story. Galen replied, her voice dropping to a whisper. It's a demon. It comes back every 23 years for 23 days to feed. And my son Mykenny was one of its victims. Addison's breath hitched. The weight of her grandmother's words pressed down on her chest like a heavy stone. So, it's real. It's not just some nightmare or a legend. It's real. Galen nodded slowly. I wish it wasn't. But I've spent years piecing together the truth, and I know it is. Jojo stepped closer, his voice calm but resolute. If what your son buried here is connected to the creeper, we need to find it. It could be the key to stopping it for good. Galen hesitated again, her fear of the unknown battling with her desire to protect Addison. Finally, she nodded. There's a spot near the old oak tree at the back of the farm. That's where Kenny spent most of his time before he left. If there's anything, it might be there. Jojo exchanged a glance with his team, then turned back to Galen. We'll handle this. And we'll make sure no harm comes to you or Addison. Addison looked at her grandmother, her fear giving way to determination. Grandma, whatever this is, I want to help. I don't want to be kept in the dark anymore. Galen placed a trembling hand on Addison's shoulder. Just promise me you'll stay safe. That's all I care about. With a deep breath, Addison nodded. The atmosphere buzzed with a mix of anticipation and unease as the group prepared to uncover the secrets buried beneath the soil. When Jacob passed the foul-smelling bundle to Jojo, who carefully unwrapped it, the first glimpse of the dark, sinewy appendage sent a chill through everyone except Jojo, whose expression remained impassive. As the cloth fell away completely, the sight of the hand caused an audible gasp from Galen and Addison. The discovery of the grotesque hand unearthed a mix of fear, fascination, and confusion among the group. It was a misshapen, clawed appendage, with leathery, almost reptilian skin. Despite its age, the hand had not decayed completely, exuding an unnatural presence. Oh my God! Addison whispered, taking a step back, her face pale. What is that thing? Jojo crouched beside the hand, observing it carefully. This is what we came for. He murmured, his voice calm but laced with seriousness. It's a part of the creeper. Somehow it's survived all these years, still alive. Alive? Galen echoed, her voice trembling. How can that be possible? The answer came unbidden as the hand twitched, its claws flexing faintly. Holy shit! Derry exclaimed, stumbling back in terror. It moved. I saw it. That thing moved. Trish grabbed onto Jojo's arm, her grip tight. Jojo, what is this thing? Why is it still moving? Jojo didn't respond immediately. Instead, he stood, holding the grotesque appendage at arm's length. It's a part of the creeper's regenerative ability. He explained. Even separated from its body, it retains some level of life. And it reacts to stimuli. Freya's scientific curiosity piqued as she stepped forward. Stimuli? Hey? Let's see just how much it can feel. She lit her lighter, holding the flame beneath the base of the palm. The hand twitched violently, curling as if in pain. It reacts to pain. Freya confirmed, her voice tinged with intrigue. Rosalie, unable to resist, snatched the lighter from Freya and ignited the top of the palm. The hand recoiled, trembling even more violently as though trying to escape the flame. Unbelievable! Rosalie muttered with a sly grin. It's like it's trying to run away. Almost sentient. Klaus, watching the display with growing excitement, stepped forward and seized the hand from Freya. All right, enough playing with fire. Let's see if it can withstand this. He picked up a saw from Galen's toolbox, his grin widening with anticipation. Seriously, Klaus? Elijah sighed, shaking his head. Come on, brother. This is a rare chance. Klaus retorted, placing the hand on a nearby wooden surface and beginning to saw. The blade screeched against the unyielding material of the hand but failed to leave even a scratch. The hand writhed, claws scratching at the air, but remained intact. Well, that's disappointing. Klaus huffed, lifting the unscathed hand. He turned to Elijah with a mischievous glint in his eye. Let's take it back. It'll make a fascinating little souvenir. No. Jojo interjected firmly, stepping forward. This isn't a toy, Klaus. It's dangerous. Klaus shrugged, handing the hand back to Jojo with a smirk. Fine, but you're no fun. Jojo secured the hand in a reinforced bag and turned to the group. We need to study this back at our base. If it's still connected to the creeper in some way, it might give us clues on how to stop it. Galen, standing with Addison at a distance, crossed her arms protectively. I don't care what you do with it, as long as it's far away from here. And if that thing is what I think it is, you'd better make sure it doesn't bring any more trouble to my family. Jojo nodded solemnly. We will. But this is only the beginning. If this hand is here, then the creeper isn't far behind. The weight of his words hung in the air as the group prepared to leave, their purpose clearer than ever. As Elijah clasped the grotesque hand to see it, his expression shifted from curiosity to a blank stare, his eyes losing focus as if staring into another realm. Elijah! Klaus called out, his playful demeanor evaporating as he watched his brother freeze in place. The hand's clawed fingers tightened around Elijah's palm, almost like a desperate, lifelike grip. Elijah! Klaus shouted again, this time moving with supernatural speed to pry the hand away. He yanked it off, tossing it to the ground with force. The hand twitched violently before going limp, its grotesque form unsettling in the dirt. Elijah staggered back, gasping for breath as he clutched his head. What happened? Freya demanded, stepping closer to examine him. Elijah raised a hand to stop her, his breathing steadying as he composed himself. I saw something. His voice was calm but laden with tension. Jojo stepped forward, his expression sharp. What did you see? Elijah took a deep breath and met Jojo's gaze. It was another place. A vision, I think. It felt like hell itself. The landscape was scorched, the sky burning red. There was this creature. I believe it was the creeper, but not as we know it now. It was different, primal. I saw it being hunted, captured, and... Elijah hesitated, as if searching for the right words. Transformed. Transformed. Klaus echoed, his tone skeptical but laced with curiosity. Asterisk. Author's POV. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review and Power Stone. Chapter 120, Chapter 115, Creepers Past. Arian. When hearing Elijah's description of the vision he just had when the creeper's hand gripped his hand tightly, everyone became silent. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. The atmosphere became heavy hearing Elijah mentioning he saw a place very similar to hell, him. When Klaus raised his eyebrow at Elijah about the transformation of the creeper curiously. Nod. Yet. I can't fully tell what happened, but I can tell the creeper was, for some reason, hunted down by a group of people who looked exactly like him before he transformed into a gore monster. When they caught him, they did some ritual and put him in a coffin with a lot of purple liquid boiling at a high temperature, occasionally forming bubbles here and there, and threw him into a deep pit. With a nod, Elijah, with narrowed eyes, started to explain what he saw in the vision with a serious expression. This was the first time he had experienced this type of vision, which caught him completely off guard. Hell? Clone? Coffin? Freya, hearing all this, started to think deeply about what the vision symbolized and why Elijah had a vision when touching it. ___________. Interesting, even for me, who has seen the Creepers trilogy, there is no answer about these mysterious visions and what is the way Galen found to kill Creeper once and for all. While Jojo was quietly observing and thinking about the Creepers trilogy he saw in his previous life, the origin, past, and way to defeat the Creeper remained mysterious once and for all. Then let me try it. Alice, who was observing the Creeper's hand, became motionless after being thrown by claws to the ground, after giving a heart attack to the dead heart of Elijah. Chuckle. Since I have a gift to see the future through visions, maybe I can connect to the vision more clearly if the same vision happens to me. Seeing everyone's attention on her, Alice, with a little chuckle and curiosity evident in her eyes, clearly wanted to see the vision. No, first, I will try to see if there are no side effects on it. Jojo, who was near her, shook his head immediately, stating that he wanted to verify that the severed Creeper's hand was safe to have a vision with. With this, Jojo took a deep sigh and was ready to immerse himself in the vision Elijah had. He knew to connect with this hand, he needed to give a proper handshake so it could catch his hand tightly after observing Elijah and his memory from his previous life, where Galen helps Sheriff Tash Tigo to have the same vision she had, in which they found a way to kill the Creeper once and for all. Without any fear, Jojo took the hand from the ground and gave it a proper handshake so he could connect with it. Blank. When the Creeper's hand felt his hand and gripped it tightly, Jojo's mind, for a second, went blank, and when he snapped back, he found himself standing in a landscape that looked dark and eerie. Vision. The sky looks red instead of blue, and there are no clouds, sun, or moon in the sky, which looks very clean. Except for the glimmering stars visible in the sky due to the clear mode. The land beneath Jojo's feet, where he was standing, had black soil with cracks here and there. The cracks, with their radiant red hue, were hot. While the rocks and stones were completely white, quite a contrast to normal stones. When Jojo tried to touch the stone, he succeeded. He picked one up and put it in his pocket after examining it. We should catch him. Suddenly, Jojo heard a sweet, gentle voice, which sounded very soft, speaking about catching someone. _________. With narrowed eyes, Jojo hurried toward the direction where the voice was coming from, slowly and carefully. He didn't know if he could be found out by whoever was talking. Even though Jojo was in a vision, since he could touch and take a stone, there was a high chance these people would find him out. When Jojo arrived at an area where a riverbed of lava was flowing, he saw, on the side of the river, two people who looked extremely identical. They were wearing gear that looked like guards or low-level soldiers and were discussing something. Sigh. Don't speak loudly. We need to find that traitor and bring him to His Majesty so we can save our own lives. Hearing the other soldier beside him speaking a little too loudly, the other soldier hurriedly covered the mouth of the one who was talking. After looking left and right, the other one spoke slowly in a husky voice. Meanwhile, Jojo calmly listened to their conversation while leaning behind a large rock near them. Neither of the guards was paying attention to him. Thud thud. While they were about to converse deeper, suddenly another soldier arrived, looking the same as the other two guards. We have caught the traitor, when he attempted to run away with the 500 human souls he stole from the collection chamber. The arriving guard hurriedly shared the news of the traitor being caught, with a huge smile on his face. Sigh. Hearing the news of the traitor being caught, the two worried guards let out a sigh of relief, as they had finally been granted some rest. Where is he? Because of him, we would have lost our lives. After calming down a little, both guards' faces morphed into anger as they asked the third guard who had arrived to tell them about the situation. By listening to the conversation, Jojo could piece together what was happening. Somebody had stolen human souls from this group, most probably the Creeper, judging by the description. Swish! With a swish, the place and the scene before him changed. Now Jojo was standing in a large room among the people present there. The room looked eerie, and the throne, along with the steps leading to it, was made of pure gold, which was glimmering and stealing everyone's attention. Seeing all this, Jojo concluded that he was now standing in a courtroom where everyone was gathered, probably to judge the traitor. Now Jojo was clear, they couldn't see him or feel him, and he couldn't touch them no matter how much he tried. So he concluded that he could only touch non-living things. All of them present here had the same facial features, like they were clones, and they were not human. Because all of them had long horns on their heads and large bat-like wings on their backs, Jojo concluded they were demons. Their eyes were a radiant yellow. Thud thud. Long live, our King Arion! Long live, our King Arion! Long live, our King Arion! When Jojo heard the footsteps of someone approaching, the whole courtroom became pin-drop silent, and the atmosphere grew heavy. When the door opened, a man who looked exactly like them entered the room with a cold look, except he wore royal attire like a king, and his eyes were red instead of yellow. By the chanting of the demons around him, Jojo understood that the demon before him was named Arion. This demon had a striking, otherworldly beauty. His chiseled, regal face was both alluring and intimidating, with high cheekbones, a sharp jawline, and symmetrical features that exuded an air of dark perfection. His glowing crimson eyes seemed to pierce the soul, radiating both intelligence and menace. Arion's horns curved gracefully backwards, polished and smooth, adding a touch of elegance to his demonic visage. His skin had a sleek, metallic sheen, shimmering in shades of dark silver. With a cold look, Arion walked to the steps leading to the throne, and with each step, the tension in the air grew heavier. When Arion reached the throne, he calmly took his rightful seat and gave a hand wave, signaling the guards to bring the traitor in. Soon the guards dragged in a creeper who had the same face as the others, while his hands were cuffed and pierced by the spiky handcuffs. Thud! After dragging the traitor, the guards made the creeper kneel before Arion, who was looking at the creeper with disgust and anger. You dare to have greedy thoughts about my precious soul collection. As a soul guard, your job is to protect the storage chamber. But you dare to eat my souls, which belong to me, and have the audacity to try to escape, taking 500 souls from my precious collection. With anger rising in each word, Arion roared at the traitor while the traitor shivered, his face turning pale, and he started to beg for mercy. Because of that, I lost to a filthy human, losing by the count of 300 human souls in that damn competition. Boom! With a loud boom, Arion kicked the ground in frustration, causing the courtroom to tremble. Damn! I lost to someone who was once my believer. Now he created his dimension and is harvesting souls, fucking asshole. Now because of you, I need to give him 3,000 human souls from my collection. Take him, put a soul curse on him. He needs to feel pain every minute and smell and see his flesh rotting before his eyes. To survive, he can only eat human flesh. If he tries to devour any soul, his body will decay faster. Banish him to the human world. After giving punches and kicks to the traitor, who was on the verge of collapsing, Arion roared angrily, giving the orders to execute the punishment immediately. He didn't want to see the creeper again. Mercy, my lord, please have mercy, you are my father, you are my mother, please have mercy on me. Hearing the punishment, the creeper's face turned pale. This was one of the worst punishments for him. Phew phew. Father, mother, interesting, okay, I will give you a chance. You need to bring me 23,000 pure human souls at the standard of my personal collection. With an amused smirk, Arion spoke with a playful glint on his face. Then I. Hearing this, the creeper's face brightened, but before he could sigh in relief, he was interrupted by Arion. But, there is a catch. You can only kill 23 humans maximum for every 23 years, for 23 days. After that, you will go into a deep slumber. Now the smirk on his face widened into a big smile, showcasing all his teeth as he told the creeper about the catch he had put in place. With that, the guards dragged the creeper out of the courtroom. The scene before Jojo once again changed. Now he was standing in a dark underground chamber where a few demons were reciting chants in an unknown language while a coffin was at the center. Inside the coffin, a purple-colored liquid with bubbles forming here and there indicated it was at a very high temperature. They pulled the horrified creeper and put him inside the coffin despite all his struggles and begging. Immediately, he started screaming. His body began to change from being handsome to a gore monster, all his hair falling off, leaving him bald. After closing the coffin, they threw it into the deep dark pit. Once again, the vision changed. Now Jojo was standing in a human world farm field where the creeper was running from someone who had a sword in his hand that was glowing faintly. When the creeper took the aerial route, using the advantage of his wings, the man chasing him threw the sword in a desperate attempt to hit a vital spot. But the sword only cut his hand, not any vital spot. Now the vision once again changed. This time Jojo was standing in an abandoned mansion where a group of cultists was praying to the creeper, who was sitting on a majestic throne but not moving, with one hand missing. Vision ended. With it, Jojo suddenly opened his eyes and looked around to see he was back at Galen's farmhouse. Asterisk. Author's POV. /N Advanced Happy New Year, guys. Thanks for reading the chapter. Please give a review and Power Stone. Chapter 121, Chapter 116. Again 23. Creepers looses. When the vision ended and Jojo opened his eyes, he was back in Galen's farmhouse. Caught off guard, he fell to the ground and stumbled but steadied himself immediately. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. The others stood silently, their expressions serious, surrounding him like a shield. Trish, her brother Derry, Galen, and her granddaughter Addison were standing behind Freya, who was inquiring about the creeper's hand. Jojo, are you all right? Rosalie helped him steady himself and asked, a little worriedly. Previously, when Jojo was immersed in the vision after holding the creeper's hand, his eyes had turned white, and his body had started to float upwards from the ground. When Rosalie saw this, she immediately tried to act, wanting to break the creeper's grip on Jojo's hand as Klaus did with Elijah but was stopped by Alice. Wait, Rosalie. Jojo is in a vision. When the vision ends, he'll return to normal. Hearing Alice's explanation and reassurance that it was due to the vision and that Jojo would return to normal after it ended, Rosalie calmed down a little and stood beside Jojo, waiting for the vision to pass. Meanwhile, Alice instructed the others to form a protective circle around Jojo until the vision ended, just in case the creeper struck while Jojo was in no condition to fight back. Nod. How much time has passed? Nodding his head in understanding, Jojo asked Rosalie how long he had been in the vision. You've been in the vision for the past 23 minutes and 23 seconds. Hearing Jojo's question, Freya, who had been waiting calmly, spoke while showing the stopwatch in her hand. Underscore 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 underscore. Again, 23, hey. Seeing it was once again the number 23, Jojo fell silent, pondering the meaning behind the number. So, what did you see in the vision? After a slight pause, noticing Jojo's silence and deep thought after hearing about the time, Freya broke the quiet, her voice tinged with curiosity. While everyone else was also looking at him, waiting for an answer, the previous description given by Elijah had piqued their interest. Even Elijah was looking at him with expectation. Sigh. With a sigh, Jojo began explaining the vision he had seen. He described the place Elijah had mentioned before, the story of Arian, and how the creeper was a clone of him. He also recounted how the creeper had stolen souls from Arian, who was his king and had been cursed to become the creature he now was. Jojo further explained the way Arian had suggested breaking the curse and how the creeper needed to kill and collect 23,000 pure souls. However, the creeper was limited to hunting a maximum of 23 lives once every 23 years for 23 days. So, you're telling me this Arian you mentioned is the king of hell? Raising his eyebrow, intrigued by the story, Klaus asked Jojo again to confirm the nature of the place Arian ruled. Yes, it should be, that place looked very different. Hearing Klaus's words, Elijah broke his silence, speaking once again. He seemed thoroughly convinced that the place Jojo saw in the vision was hell. Is that so? Seeing that Elijah was convinced the place Jojo saw was hell, Freya turned to Jojo for confirmation. _______. Cough. I don't think so. It's a separate dimension owned by a demon who can create many clones of himself. Snapping out of his thoughts with a slightly awkward cough, Jojo shook his head. With narrowed eyes, he clarified his thoughts to the group. Nod. So, what should we do to stop the creeper? Nodding in understanding, Freya asked the crucial question: how to eliminate the creeper. To eliminate the creeper, we need to find its original body. I saw it in an old mansion where some cult is worshipping it. Behind the creeper's body, there's a drawing of a pregnant woman. Jojo's eyes narrowed as he recalled the location of the creeper's original body and the cult that worshipped it like some kind of god. Damn, another cultist. Hearing this, Jacob cursed under his breath, a frown crossing his face. Memories of a previous encounter with cultists who had kidnapped their clan's girls for a ritual sacrifice came flooding back. Jacob's eyes turned toward Leah, who also looked visibly uncomfortable. ______. Seeing Leah Clearwater's reaction unsettled when cult involvement was mentioned, Jojo raised an eyebrow at her, curious about her unease. Feeling Jojo's gaze on her, Leah lowered her eyes, a little embarrassed, while her cheeks turned red. Whisper. Well. Whisper. Noticing Jojo was looking at Leah, Freya stepped forward and whispered in a low voice, reminding him that Leah was one of the girls he had saved from the cave when he first arrived in Forks. Leah had since been appointed as his secretary while Jojo was away and had taken a break from handling cases. Oh. Hearing the full details, Jojo understood why Leah was feeling uncomfortable. He gave her a gentle smile to soothe the mood. Taking a deep breath, Leah stepped forward,